It's time for Mac Break Weekly. The whole crew's here. Renee, Ritchie, Andy Anako, Alex Lindsay. We're all very excited for Apple Unleashed. They've made the announcement. What will Apple announce on Monday? Yes, it's Monday. Also, a deep dive on iPhone's macro capability, updates for iOS and Watch OS, and why Alex got up early on Friday morning. It's all coming up next on Mac Break Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Mac Break Weekly, episode 787, recorded Tuesday, October 12th, 2021. Prepare for light speed. Mac Break Weekly is brought to you by Udacity. Get the in-demand tech skills you need to advance your career. Visit udacity.com/twit and get 75% off any program with the code TWIT75. Limited time offer. And by Hover. Whether you're a developer, photographer, small business, Hover has something for you to expand your projects and get the visibility you want. Go to hover.com/twit to get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the entire first year. And by userway.org. Userway ensures your website is accessible, ADA compliant, and helps your business avoid accessibility-related lawsuits. The perfect way to showcase your brand's commitment to millions of people with disabilities. It's not only the right thing to do, it's also the law. Go to userway.org/twit for 30% off Userway's AI-powered accessibility solution. Hey, it's time for Mac Break Weekly, the show we cover the latest news from Apple. Is there news? We'll find out momentarily. But first, let's welcome our panel. Joining us from Montreal, Canada, USA, it's Renee Ritchie at youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. Hello, Renee Ritchie.
Hello, Leo. I'm so chuffed. I got my videos for this month ready early, and then it just turned out to be the perfect time.
You're showing off your exploded Macintosh T-shirt.
Coincidence, I swear.
That's a really sweet-looking little tee there. I like it. That's the original Mac?
Infinite Loop.
The 128K?
Yeah, Infinite Loop has the good T-shirts. Apple Park does not have the good T-shirts. You have to go to Infinite Loop for the good T-shirts.
Yes, Alex Lindsay always says that. Alex Lindsay's also here from Office Hours and 090.media. You love the Infinite Loop.
The Infinite Loop store is better.
Yeah.
For the shirts.
Yeah.
I bought my kids at the Infinite Loop store. I bought them two, like one with AirPods and another one with something else that was just like what Renee had. I got them like 2 or 3 years ago. They don't look like they've been washed once, and they wear them all the time. You know, they're incredible. It's a typical Apple.
Yeah,
it's like they just whatever they spent on that shirt. And it was expensive to buy. It was not like
because Steve would very carefully look and see and check each model.
I feel like they must have washed it like 100 times and said, "Well, it looks 90%. I think we'll keep it."
Wow. Also with us, Andy Anako from WGBH in Boston Public Radio. Hello, Mr. Anako.
Hello. I agree with Alex. This is the best investment that a company can make is when you sell T-shirts, sell them like on really good quality tees, because I still have and wear regularly like my BB Edit T-shirts from like the 90s because they went for like the heavyweight Hanes beefy tees, whereas there are other shirts that I have where, oh wow, I really like your website, I really like your Patreon. Yes, I'll absolutely take a shirt, and then it comes in and it's like, okay, I can wear this on top of another shirt 2 times before it will definitely have to be thrown out. That was a good use of $28. Thank you.
And BB Edit improves the fact that it's good design too. Like I'm not, it's just not my business that I use BB Edit that much, but I wear the shirts because it's a great design. It's a great shirt.
It's such a great app too.
So
it is a great app.
On Sunday, and poor Dan Morin is I'm going to mention him in this context. Although we agreed the week before, we were talking about, well, if Apple has a date, when would it be?
Oh, famed author Dan Morin and you.
Yes, the sci-fi author Dan Morin from Six Colors in Macworld. He said, just like I think you did, Renee, well, next Tuesday is the 19th. That's when Google has announced it's going to do the Pixel 6 phone. So probably Apple will do it the following Tuesday. But what we forgot is, Apple did not used to like to do events on Mondays because they didn't want the team to have to work so hard over the weekend. I think that was the story. Although it doesn't
Unions.
sound very
unions
steep.
at the unions at the
usually
venues
it's
wouldn't work on the
unions.
weekend.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because now the venue, first of all, Apple owns the venue. Probably don't even, they could just use interns. And second of all, they're not even using the venue because it's all pre-recorded. So we didn't think, and of course, what did Apple do? Something very aptly. They said, well, hold my beer. What if we did it the day before the Pixel event? Take that, Google.
My guess, knowing Apple is they probably didn't pay attention to when Google was doing anything.
Yeah.
They don't care. This was the date that they decided was the best date, and they probably weren't looking.
No,
Google cares.
Google might care.
I do think that Apple was smart to say that, okay, 2 major product announcements on the same date is probably no good for us or anybody. What would it cost us to do it the day before? I think if you're trying to get the most attention with the same event, you're not going to try to stack it on top of what looks to be something very, very big that Google is going to be announcing. So what's the point?
And
Especially because Google announced earlier.
the real,
Google
yeah,
hasn't said
right. We
anything,
know
it was just
everything there
rumors.
is about the Pixel 6. But
But I mean, if it was just a rumored event, I think Apple would have taken the Tuesday. Like if they'd been able to move first, I
absolutely.
think they would have just taken the
100%.
Tuesday. But because Google announced first,
So the real thing for Apple is when can we ship these, right? In fact, I think they had the idea of these was ready in June at WWDC, but we thought they'd release these then. And I think it was really about when is manufacture going to be ready? In any event, we've now completely talked around the big story, which is Apple announced this morning they are going to have an
Carried the
event
lead.
next Monday, October 18th, 10 a.m. Pacific. Apple event, it says here. That seems like a generic placeholder.
Unleashed. It's called Unleashed.
I know, and I don't understand. This is on the Apple.com page. They didn't finish the mock-up or something.
Is that Alex? Is that an ILM accurate going into hyperspace?
It depends on whether it's Star Trek or Star Wars. It actually looks nicer than the Star Wars one.
Are you
as
sure?
as the streaks go.
This is not. Are you sure it's not the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones? I think.
Yeah. I think they're coming out with the Apple Millennium Falcon. It's all smooth and shiny and
Plenty in Vulcan.
So it will be recorded. We will, of course, stream it. We'll be here. I'll have to come in on a day off. Thank you very much, Apple.
Thanks, Apple.
Thank you, Apple.
They didn't even call you and ask. So inconsiderate.
No, I think they said, "What could screw Leo the most?" That's what they said. That's what they said. Yeah, I'll be up late celebrating a Giants victory, and boy, the next day I'll have to come in. Apple event. This is not the invitation. That's so funny on their website. On the invitation, does it say Apple Unleashed?
It just says Unleashed. Yeah.
Oh, it says Unleashed.
Yeah.
That's so strange that they forgot to fix that here. You know what? It's just a simple HTML tag. You could probably fix it right now, Apple, if you're watching. Unleashed doesn't say anything. This picture doesn't say anything. But we pretty much know what it's going to be, right, Renee?
Yeah. They put a period at the end of Unleashed. Apple keeps doing this. They put a period at the end of single words, like in poster art, and I know there's some AP style guide somewhere.
It's all you need to know.
It feels passive aggressive to me.
There's a lot of meetings about it too. Like it's not like someone forgot or slipped it.
Oh,
in
they
there.
put it in.
There's probably 3 weeks of meetings about the period.
It's a mic drop. It's a visual mic drop. Unleashed.
We're the last ones to unleash. Yes. We're the last ones that are ever going to unleash.
Done. This is it. Unleashed.
Yeah. Or just everybody's exhausted. We're not even out of COVID yet. And it's like, look,
Unleashed is a full sentence.
Whatever we put up there, they're gonna pick it apart and put meaning into it anyway. Let's just go home and get waffles tonight, okay?
We were going to call it Leashed, but we figured Unleashed would be better suited to this.
Leashed. There is no leash.
Yeah,
well,
no, I think like this is it
ain't gonna be an M1 because you wouldn't say Unleashed if it were an M1. It is something new, right?
And M1 isn't powerful enough. M1 is the ultra low power version of the chip. It's basically what an A14X would have been. The most interesting thing for me now is they're going to unleash M1X after they've unleashed A15 now, and that's not unusual because they put out the A12Z for the iPad Pro after they put the A13 in the iPhone. So it's not unprecedented, but like, do they change things up for marketing? Do they call it an M2X just because it sounds more reasonable, even though it's not the IP generation?
Or maybe we don't do X at all. Just call it M2.
Well, M2 is going to go into the next MacBook Air. That's
Pro.
going to be the next generation of
Mac
ultra
Air.
low power MacBook Air. So they need something
I
to,
see.
to say this is a Pro chip.
So that's what they do with the iPad.
Pro branding.
That's what they do. So
Yeah.
the A14 is for the phone, and the A14X is the
For the extra.
iPad
It's
Pro.
X-Force.
X-Force.
Yeah, well, it was for extended because it was for extra because it had extra cores in it.
Okay.
The thing that interests me
So
though is
M1X
that
would be
I
would be logical. Not necessarily the best marketing, but it'd be logical.
Totally. But the part that interests me the most is some people are saying like now there's an A15, it should be the M2X. But I wonder if some of the things we saw in the A15 last month didn't actually come from M1X, like Apple taking an afterburner and saying we can do ProRes hardware acceleration on a chip now for the MacBook Pro. Oh, why don't we put that into the next iPhone? So I wonder if this is going to be some sort of hybrid generation with mixed A14, A15 IP, just something that was purpose built for the Mac, but that they're pulling stuff out of now for their next generation.
Previously, the iPhone was feeding the next generation for the iPad, but you're saying it may now go both ways. And the things that, for instance, the high performance, high efficiency chips that we're seeing on the iPhone 13, maybe that.
Well, and Anantech came out with Anantech is great for this. They're the only people I think who really should be benchmarking because they don't just download an app and press a button. They actually dig into everything. And they published and they're saying, yes, the performance cores are 10% faster, but the efficiency cores are like 30% faster.
Right.
And the GPU cores are massively, they throttle, but they're massively faster. And they looked at the 120 hertz display and they're like, this actually has way better power characteristics than anything we've seen. And that sort of stuff will filter into what we're getting on the Mac as well. So it's not just like a generational thing. It's not just a number, but it's like the M1X is supposed to have 2 efficiency cores, 8 performance cores, as opposed to 4 and 4 like on the M1. So that's less efficient. So people are worrying, does that mean battery life is going to be worse? If they're higher performance efficiency cores, will it be much worse? Does macOS low power mode somehow connect? So there's a lot of speculation going on, but it's going to be really interesting.
So the chip hounds are the ones that are going to be watching most closely on Monday.
Guilty.
I think anybody ready to buy a new Mac is going to watch really closely.
So we've pushed off buying my nephew graduated from Rhode Island School of Design in the summer, and I promised him he needed a nice hot new laptop for his new graphics design jobs, and I said, it's going to come out in June. The WWDC will get you the new 16-inch. It didn't. I bought him an Air, and I said, give the Air to your brother when we get the 16, and we've been waiting ever since. I think this Monday is the day. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Not only because of the new chips, but also because this is the final erasure of the blight upon the MacBook line known as the 2016 MacBook Pro Refresh, where this is the Andy was right edition, where they go, you know what, maybe we should have put an SD card slot there. Maybe we should have put maybe we should have put physical function keys up there. Maybe we should have an HDMI port up there. So it really is like a return to form. Like, let's make something more practical, something that doesn't quite look so great in a keynote presentation, but looks great every single day you pull it out and you don't have to pull out like 8 dongles to make the damn thing work.
We should point out you are functioning on rumor. We don't know anything about
exactly
this.
Right.
But the rumor is it will have the Alex was right MagSafe adapter. Yes. The Andy was right HDMI port SD card slot port. The Leo was right no freaking touch bar. What were you right about, Renee?
Intel being just completely
Intel. So we are all right.
Andy was right even earlier, and I want to see Ethernet back.
Oh, Ethernet.
It's going to be the power brick like the iMac.
And
literally every single
Andy and I
time.
were right about the butterfly keyboard too. I might point out.
Exactly. No, from day one. Yeah, but they fixed at least they fixed that before they realized that this is a crime against humanity. We're about to be dragged up before the front of the Hague if we don't fix this keyboard. Yeah.
As we do, all these video things, you can tell. I can always tell where someone on the other side has gone Wi-Fi. So I'm always plugged into Ethernet, and every single time I plug an adapter into a computer for my Ethernet, I think of Andy. Andy was right.
What if it's in the power brick like the iMac, Alex? Would that be okay?
What?
I love the idea of Ethernet in the power brick. I love that idea.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be the power brick like the iMac.
That would
You think so?
Amazing. Yeah.
Because then it's under the desk,
see.
it's on the floor, it's plugged in as it should be, and you don't unplug anything when you take the laptop. You just take off the MagSafe and you go.
That's great.
That's how it should be, because you're always plugged in. I mean, the Ethernet port's next to the plug, basically.
What would be great is if it had the Ethernet and a USB-C, and then you have like a hub to it and everything else. You just plug in your power, and you're like, I have all the things.
That would be interesting.
That's going to be a disaster with all the dust and dirt that you get on the floor. That's going to foul up that USB-C really quickly. But that's it. But that would be a great move forward, because Apple would suddenly be giving us that like $12, $15 dongle for free because they're going to give us
at that point, though. I mean, then you're giving us a dock.
Well, no, just
by the way, I should point out Microsoft does that, or did that in the original Surfaces. They had a USB port on the power supply.
But Andy knows that power brick's going to be $50 more expensive.
Yeah, well, again, if we're assuming we're not moving towards a future in which Apple says that we feel as though, as our gift to the environment, we're no longer going to give you a charger along with your $2,000 laptop.
That would be a little too much.
I know, but this way they can give us a little bit of extra functionality that actually fits perfectly, because like you said, nobody likes to show off their Ethernet cables. The Ethernet cable is the snake in the grass, literally on my office carpet. So there's no better place to put it than put it right on the floor. So yeah that would be a really great move.
So probably also there was a rumor 14 and 16 inch, right? Roughly the same, both MacBook Pros with the Pro underlined.
Yeah, the 13-inch would get the same treatment the 15-inch got in 2019, and just have the bezels Thanos snapped in half, so it'd fill more of the frame. Roughly the same size, but a bigger display.
The other rumor was that one of the reasons this wasn't available in the June is they're going to use mini LED displays, the same display they use on the iPad Pro, and it's difficult to produce in quantity, apparently. Does that make sense?
There was a tweet from an analyst who specializes in the panel industry, who said specifically that. Thank you very much. Who said specifically that this is basically a scaled up version of the 12.9-inch iPad Pro display. I think he committed to mini LED. He was not willing to back a couple other rumors that were in the rear, but this is what he's committed to. If that's true, that's another point in favor of this being a really landmark MacBook Pro, because that is one stellar display after having used it for several months.
I'll be frank. Maybe I just don't have the good eyes, but I don't really see any big difference between the iPad Pro with mini
If you put
LED.
them side by side, you'll see it. Like if you put them side by side and you put on something that's high dynamic range, you'll see the blacks are much deeper. And 1600 nits, Leo, that could give you a tan.
But you have to put them side by side. It isn't always 1600 nits, only with the very brightest specular highlight kind of things. Yeah. I don't think it's in a day-to-day use. I don't. Maybe you would notice it, Alex, because you have to do color grading.
It's my job. That's what I do. Yeah. So I definitely notice HDR, but I have noticed now. I took some video recently of a sunset, and it looks so good on my iPhone. And then I sent it to somebody, and they opened up. They're like, it's all kind of blown out. I was like,
oh, you don't have HD. I'm so sorry.
But I think that's going to hit people more and more. Like you just notice how your photos and your video on your iPhone look so much better on your iPhone or on your iPad than they do everywhere else. And you're like, okay, well, and you start noticing the TV now. I keep on thinking one of my TVs is still SDR, and I keep on looking at it going, what is wrong with this picture?
I'm so sorry.
And then I'm like, oh, it's just not HDR.
Well, there's also a rumor that Apple has secretly switched to 10-bit panels, which like they've been doing 10-bit internally for years, and they just temporally dither it to make it look like more colors than the 8-bit physical panels could produce. But one of the rumors in AnandTech was that they're actually showing full 10-bit color now, and if that is propagating across their new panel lineup, that's like a lot of people again won't notice the difference. Some people don't see high frame rate. Some people don't notice high resolution. Some people could care less about wide gamut, but some people do notice it. And when you're working on this stuff like every day, editing every day, those little things just make it so much more accurate and so much a better experience for you. I'm really excited that this is like pushing the industry again, the way the iMac did when it went 5K.
And the hard part though is it's much harder. It's much harder to produce. Like I just finished like literally last night in the middle of the night. I finished a 709 project, and Rec 709 is so cute. It's a cute little color space. Like I was like, this is so much easier than what I'm used to. Like I'm used to everything's all Vision or PQ or something like that. And so I was like, oh, this is just a little 709 project. I can just color correct it and call it a day.
But this is where Apple Apple limits our choice and makes things simpler, so to speak, where like I wound up with that advanced display because I wanted the 12.9 inch. I didn't want the 10 inch iPad. And so, well, congratulations. You're just paying for the best display you can possibly get. So, well, could you give me like the same display as the smaller one, but knock $150? Nope. Congratulations. You have the best display there is, which is completely appropriate when you're talking about a device that is positioned not for content consumption, but for people like me who I want the larger display because one of the things I like to do with it is photo editing and photo retouching, and so that's the arena in which you do appreciate the difference. It's not going to be the sort of thing where everybody is going to see the benefit, so that's why they have to be very, very judicious in where they put this panel.
Well, I think also, though, a lot of people don't know you don't see 4K different than 1080p until you watch a lot of 4K. And so by having it in everything, it means that you're pushing that whole thing where people are getting used to it. And you start looking at everything else kind of, like you don't know why, but it feels different, and that's the big thing that happens is the other.
I get that, but that also means that you're pushing the prices of things up $100, $150 for something that people might not really appreciate. That's all. That's usually my point here.
I guess I'll always argue that they don't appreciate it immediately, but it also creates the market that allows people to create those things. So we can't. The market, like you can't really create until Apple started. Apple's made HDR really work as a platform, and almost nobody else has. From a computing perspective, and same thing with spatial. Allowing us to be able to develop for it means that it builds that whole industry. Because there's millions of devices that you can do it, not the handful of people that would know that be asking for it. People don't know to ask for it. But the thing is after a couple of years of watching HDR and listening to spatial, because I've spent a couple of years doing that, and again, I was watching Foundation, and they're barely mixing for whatever reason. At least in the first one, they were barely mixing to the side speakers, and I was just like, why are they mushing all the stuff up into the front?
Are you wasting
people complain on Foundation that they can't understand the dialogue. Scott Wilkinson and Steve Gibson both said, I can't understand the dialogue. Is that because they did that?
A bad mix.
That's partially. They're mushing everything up. The big thing with immersive sound isn't just that it's all around you. It's that your brain can actually put all that sound in different places. And somehow, and it doesn't help with Tenet, but in general, yes. It allows your brain to separate what's going on. If you listen to a lot of stuff that's done in Atmos for music, you suddenly hear instruments that you didn't hear before because your brain has a place to put them. They're not all in one place. And so it's a really, it's more than just being surrounding, it's being able to identify it. And specifically when you're not just dealing with two channels, when you have a surround, you have a center speaker that is typically your voice track. And that makes it a lot easier to actually, for me, it makes it actually a lot easier to hear, except for Tenet.
The thing that was really super exciting to me too is, according to Mac Rumors, what they found in the source code for macOS Monterey is that these displays are going to be actual Retina displays. Right now, the resolution isn't high enough, so they use a desktop scaler to get us like 1.5x, but these will be true 2x panels. And again, a lot of people don't care. They don't care if every pixel is not on the grid, if there's like anti-aliasing and mushiness and stuff. But for people who really want, I want the pixels that I got, I want a real Retina. These should be the first real Retina display Macs. Not 4K, but like every pixel will be at 2x what a traditional Mac was.
Let's take a look. It's kind of become a tradition when you go on your iPhone to the Apple event page and you tap the logo. Let's see what magic can. We've got magic for you. Yes, we do. It's an augmented reality. Well, that's really disappointing. There's going to be more, right? In a minute.
Again,
there it is. There it is. And look what happens. Look what happens when I stream through the time warp. Wait, there comes an Apple logo. Whoosh. There comes a day. Whoosh.
It's just a
jump. Great disturbance in the false.
I wish I had.
Notice that it's going under your table. Oh,
is it really?
Some of it looked like it was.
Oh, it is. You're totally right. Yeah. So that's why it didn't trigger right away. I had to give it the flat surface. It was supposed to go under. It had to get something.
Yeah, it had nowhere to go.
Had nowhere to go. Wow, that's kind of cool.
Prepare my ship. I will go to Lord Vader's ship and apologize personally for losing the Falcon.
It's actually going behind you, Alex. Look at that. Look at. I hope you don't mind those things streaming behind you there.
And that's the big advantage of the LiDAR.
Yeah. Look at that. That's amazing. And this is that old iPhone 12 that nobody wants anymore. Yeah. So
imagine what this would be like in augmented reality. Like if you had the Apple goggles on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be throwing up right now. That's what it'd be like.
become a
You feel like
star
you're being
child.
smacked in the face.
I love it that Cult of Mac calls this an Easter egg, that it says October 18th in the thing, but it also pops up on my screen, as you can see. Would you like to add it to your calendar? So it's not exactly a surprising thing, but still, that's cool. Yeah, that really is cool that it's going behind you, Alex, and Andy. It's going behind both. Oh no, it's going a little bit over, Andy. Some is behind, some is over.
So a reflective, you're at a reflective angle for it, so it'll have a little harder time at certain angles of being able to see what's
the
going
reflections
on.
are. You need your Wonder Woman
occlusion has
bracelets.
been a conclusion.
Yeah, or your Fitbit, one or the other.
But it's pretty slick, and I think I think part of this is that it keeps on having you get to think about what
it might be
possible.
like, what the future will hold.
Well, just it gets you. It turns it from
and
something
now it
that
turns itself off because the future doesn't have very good battery life. Okay, go ahead.
the future future overheats your CPU.
Yeah, right. But other than that,
No, but this is just brilliant. It's a bit of fun, but also it turns it from something that you just sort of notice that I guess sometime next week there's going to be you just spent like 30 seconds to a minute like focusing on this big 1018, and now you're going to be like at dinner tonight and say, "Can you pass the 1018, please?" When you on the meatloaf.
So laptops, pretty much we agree for sure, right? A 14-inch and a 16-inch higher end M1X or some similarly named processor, mini LED displays. Yes. We're crossing our fingers for MagSafe plus more ports.
Maybe an AirPods.
You think we'll see
Possibly.
AirPods? These have been rumored all year that they've been. And by the way, it would just be the AirPod 3. It would be a redesign of the existing AirPods, right?
Yeah. I think that it's the right time to do it before Christmas. So it's I think that would be the time to.
That was the reason why they had to do it on October 18th.
Well, the interesting thing though is they've never done AirPods on stage except for the first ones. The AirPods Pro, the AirPods Pro Max, and the AirPods 2 were all press release dumps. They were never given any stage time.
Have you guys lost anything with the AirTags? By the way, just I was thinking about it because
I have, and I never found it.
Oh my gosh! The funny thing is that I lost my keys the other day, and I opened it up, and it had the new like find them rather than having them beep.
Yeah.
And I hit it, and it's like it's behind you, and I turned around, and it's like 12 feet, 10 feet.
Well, that's the problem.
7 feet.
It works really well when you're in the same room as the thing you lost. But if you are not in the same room, it says, "I get closer, I can't see them." Well, if I knew where they were, I wouldn't
that's
need
the ultra wideband. Yeah.
It's also a pandemic, so there's not a lot of people mulling around a lot of places where they can pick up your.
Yeah, in my house.
Exactly.
I guess
I need more
that's the problem. I need more people with iPhones in my house.
I had it took me pretty far. It was up in my bedroom, and I was down in my office, and it was like, just go this way, and it had a little arrow, and I just followed it up, and I was there, and I was like, okay, this works.
I just want to report you shouldn't rely on this because it works. When it works nicely.
There was also a bug with that they just fixed in the latest update.
Okay.
Some of the Find My stuff wasn't showing up on the.
So it was in my purse in the.
It's European.
In my European carry-all in the living room, and I was in the bedroom, so I was maybe 30 feet away, but there were two walls in between me. And
ultra wideband isn't.
I said, I don't know where it is. I have no idea. It's somewhere. Get closer. So what I end up doing, I've done this twice now, is I have to wander all over the house until it wakes up. Like and in my purse, this beeping sound isn't loud enough to really hear it outside.
I will say that one of my big complaints is that you can barely hear the beeping.
Yeah,
it's very, very faint.
Yeah. So just don't
compared to a tile.
Don't play Marco Polo with your keys.
Yeah,
unless you really can't find them. I admit if more people were in my house, maybe it'd work better. So
yeah.
The funny thing for me is that I barely use my car while I've. Sorry, Andy.
Oh, I was just going to say, none of these, I've tried like 4 different tags over the past year, and none of them work as well as you hope they would. You have to think of them as almost like as a reserve parachute, where, okay, this is not designed to guarantee, this is designed
that's
so that
a good analogy.
Hopefully,
You'll never need it. Yeah.
Well, instead of being definitely screwed, maybe it will find it for me.
Right.
The number, and I have to say that Apple does a much better job with alerts than the Tile app does, because the Tile, I've had to actually turn off alerts on Tile while because it's always giving me like false alerts. I noticed you left the house without your laptop bag. Do you? And number one, yes, I did, but that was because I'm just going around the corner to go to the store, and I forgot to turn it off before then. But also because every time that happens, I always think about, so I didn't get this alert until it was like 5, 6, 7 minutes, 8 minutes later, where I want to find out, I want there to be like a 20-foot leash. And when that leash is broken, when I can just turn around, go right back to like the security check and pick up the bag that I left behind. I don't want to say, oh, by the way, your bag has probably been stolen by now. It's like, don't tell me something at a point which like, okay, it's 10 minutes later, you are definitely on the subway now and rocketing towards Cambridge. There's no way in hell you're going to be able to turn around in time to actually correct this stupid mistake that you made.
I have to say, there was a brief period, Apple must have fixed it, of about 2 or 3 days where I was getting constant alerts saying you've left your bag behind. You've left your bag.
I still get those.
You still get those
in my car. Like if I park my car in the driveway, I'll go into the house and it'll say. But the thing is, I barely use my car now. So whenever I go to my car, it's like once a week to get groceries. It starts beeping with the thing that someone may have left this behind because it's been so long since anything connected to it.
Yeah.
So it goes deet 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 deet. I'm like, yes, I know you're there. I put you there.
So for all the magic of AirTags, they're not perfect.
They're not sentient.
Nor can they be.
Yeah.
They're still nifty.
Speaking of not perfect, I'm not going to trust John Prosser anymore, but he does say there'll be a new Mac Mini as well, and that would make a lot of sense on Monday. And actually,
I'm holding back from buying the next 10.
I know, it's very tempting, isn't it? I have no need for this at all, but it's very tempting.
Between 090 and I think we've bought like 20. So far, they're such a. I rendered some real. I was rendering 8K footage on an 8 gig Mac Mini last night, and I was just like, "This is amazing," and it was really fast. I mean, for what it was doing, and the memory didn't seem to matter. I did run out of memory finally. I did something that made it run out of memory, but it was, they're amazing little machines. I mean, an upgraded one would definitely have me just buy more.
So there is a new YouTube Flex. It's really interesting how you YouTubers, Renee, like to flex in certain ways. Like Marquez Brownlee has the robot arm. Prosser of late has been doing renders of the rumors.
Yes.
And I think it's really even more misleading because
renders.
The rumor doesn't actually tell you enough to do a render,
so
but nevertheless.
There's a little background for this. Like for Android and Windows products, the manufacturer almost always uploads images to the website months before the products come out, and people like EV Leaks find these renders and post them, so you know exactly what all the Android phones are going to look like. Or Google leaks them themselves now. I mean, that's the thing. But Apple doesn't do that. Like once in a while, the day before, people like Guillermo Rambo have found them, but they've learned to not do that. So to sort of fill that gap, people like OnLeaks and John Prosser make their own based on the CAD files that they find.
Yeah. So this is on CAD files, if it's a real CAD file. Plexiglass now on the top, a plexiglass-like reflective surface on the top, according to Prosser. On an otherwise aluminum enclosure, it will be slimmer, which makes sense because Apple Silicon means heat's not as much of a problem. Lots of look at those. Is this possible? 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports, or what is that? Thunderbolt 4, USB-A 2, USB-C something. Alex's favorite cable port. And by the way,
could be anything, honestly.
Even though the USB.
By the way, I don't have any. My thing is it's not that I hate the USB-C. It's just that I don't think it should be standardized.
You hate it.
I just don't think. I just.
It is standardized in theory. There's a. In fact, the USB org recently even added to the logos that are supposed to be stamped on every cable.
So bad. They're so confusing.
Nobody. So well, no, but even if they had them, you could look it up. But they don't. No cable uses them hardly.
Logos.
And then nobody puts them because they're ugly. Nobody puts them on their computers. So
you do put a little Thunderbolt though.
You still have to
guess.
I
think like if you just use a Thunderbolt cable, like if you pay for the really expensive Thunderbolt cables, it'll work for everyone.
Well, that was my solution to Alex: is you're buying cheap cables. Just buy cables that do it all.
No, it's just that my thing is not that because everyone thinks I hate USB-C now.
Well,
and I
you
have
definitely set that up for yourself.
I just don't think. I know I did, but my whole thing is that it's just that I just don't think the government should be trying to decide what things change every year.
It's the US. Oh, you're saying with the EU saying you should be USB-C.
Yeah, that was my argument, is that we shouldn't start telling people exactly what remember, they were trying to do, what was it, USB, micro USB was the one that they were going to standardize us on 10 years ago. So the thing is that we look back on that and go, well, that would have been pretty silly. And we'll just look back at this one that same way.
And so, port, like they said that.
But I don't have any problem with USB-C.
If you want. Just
Alex, I'm going to send you this. This is a graphic from Adafruit. Everything you need to know about USB-C. It's all in there, Alex. I don't know why you're confused.
I know, exactly.
It looks like a QAnon diagram.
I know. It was just this attempt to do everything, and it's just like some are 10 gigs and some are 480 megs and some are like
this.
And
actually, this
oh
diagram actually makes your point, Alex. I have to say.
Yeah,
this is really what you were saying.
This is engineers gone awry.
Yeah.
You know, like we can put this in, and then what if we do this, and then it could do this, and then it could do that, and then we don't have to always do that.
Yeah.
You do have to always do it. That's the problem.
The USB 2.1, 2.3, 3.4, is it USB? Because the letters are for the type of plug, but the numbers are for the speed of the plug, guys. That's how we're going to do it.
Oh my gosh.
I think I don't know if this comes from Adafruit. I got it from Adafruit. I don't know if they made it or if
and then Apple's controller supports Thunderbolt 4, but they're only delivering Thunderbolt 3. It goes right down the rabbit hole, Leo.
Yeah. It's crazy. But I think this is Adafruit made this, so thank you, Adafruit. Isaac Wellish.
But I'm with Alex. I'm so hyped for like a revamped Mac Mini. I could have bit on the Mac Mini last year if it not for the. It had the same limitations as the M1X in terms of in terms of output, in terms of how many channels they have for accessories, and so the idea of having something that's more akin to like the Intel Mac Mini in terms of what I can plug into it and how many displays I can use at the same time, coupled with the M1X processor, because this Mac, I'm no regrets whatsoever about having bought this MacBook Pro last year, because I desperately needed an upgrade, and I will be able to use this once I replace it with a desktop sometime this year or next. But oh my God, it's going to be so hard not to just simply spend the money I've set aside for what I want to buy during the Google event to buy it the day before, spending it on the M1X Mac Mini if that comes out at the same time.
Well, and I think that the thing for me is that they're just so before Mac Minis were kind of they're cute. They were like little glue that you could use, like little servers that serve up keys and do little things. What changed with the M1 is that they actually are powerful enough to run Resolve, and they're in Final Cut and Motion and Cinema 4D and all these other things, and they're really fast at doing that. Yeah. And so suddenly you have this really powerful computer that's this tiny little box, and you can rack mount two of them, and I got them stacked up over here next to me, and they're quiet.
Yeah, exactly. It's the unsung hero of the Mac lineup, because it's the one thing where you will always find a place for this in your house or in your office. Where when I buy a new Mac Mini, whether it's this year or next year, it's going to be my desktop powerful Mac. My previous Intel Mac Mini is going to go onto another desk, and it's probably going to be basically for ripping files or for crunching. I actually have an older Mac Mini that's exactly actually with the glass now it can be like an induction cooktop, but that would have to be the Intel. But then the older I actually have an older one that I bought at the MIT flea market that I actually use like as a media server, like running Plex. Yep. So no matter how old it is, it's an iMac at some point, or an iMac or a MacBook at some point. You can't get away from the fact that it is not shaped to be a nondescript little box that you just put into whatever workflow you've got. With the Mac Mini, it's designed specifically. It's got to be one of the best, most interesting challenges that Apple designed has, where we have to make it look cool coming out of the box, but once it's on the desk, it can't get in the way, it can't attract attention, so this is the solution they come up with. Here's a rounded rectangle of aluminum that looks like an Apple award you get for being at Apple for 5 or 10 years.
I feel like somebody just looked at it. They just looked at the cube and just said, if we just squeeze this really hard.
We don't need any of this crap. We don't have a hard drive anymore. We have the smaller memory. We can just get rid of some of this dead air.
And the parts are cooler. So that's really cool. Those renders Apple may silkscreen the USB-C logos on there, because those renders may not have the additional stuff.
Have you seen the real ones, Leo?
Yeah, these are really attractive. I can't wait till Apple puts. I don't see this happening. I don't know.
Like you're supposed to glance at these, and they're so complicated. This is supposed to go on a cable. Like imagine how small a cable is, and you're supposed to put all that crap on it.
It looks like it was designed by the same people who designed like the SD card standard like logos, which is okay. This is what speed is it? What
really
can I use it with?
confusing.
And because we have no idea what it's for, how to use it.
That's totally confusing.
And
I have to admit that my
USDXC.
To Renee's point, the main thing I make sure of when I grab cables, I look around, I have them all stacked up, and I make sure I find ones with lightning bolts. Like I just look for the lightning bolt. Like, I got to grab
That's all I do.
2 or 3,
and they're a little
thicker.
thicker.
Everything will work.
They're a little thicker, so you can also do it by touch.
I actually heat shrink a little like red band around the end of it,
smart.
so I can tell this is the expensive
That's
one.
so smart.
Don't lend this specifically. Don't lend this to somebody because this is a $30 cable.
This is not a power cable.
Yeah. Bloomberg, Mark Gurman last week said the new Mac Mini will feature the M1X or M2 with 8 high-performance cores, 2 efficiency cores. That seems like a reasonable prediction.
Yep.
64 gigs of RAM at max, and will feature more Thunderbolt lanes. So, and this is probably, you could probably extrapolate that this would be what you would see in a 16-inch MacBook Pro as well, right? Like these will be similar designs, I would imagine.
They'll be the same chip.
And I think that it'll probably perform nearly as good as a base level Mac Pro.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. What about graphics processors?
The only thing is exactly. No dedicated GPU. No discrete GPU.
We address this a lot with you, Alex, and I'd be very curious what you say after Monday, but it feels like Apple is still lagging behind what the top-of-the-line Radeons or NVIDIAs can do.
Yeah, maybe the top of the line, but for what most people need to use, we have to rethink when you have all those lanes that are all tied together with the CPU and the memory, there's just a lot more that you can do that you can't do through the buses. And so I think that Apple gains a lot. I don't think they're competing with Quadra cards, but I think that they are competing with a lot of the game level stuff. And really, again, what 90% of the I think the Mac Pro will come out sometime next year, and it'll have places for you to put, unfortunately, AMD cards in it, not NVIDIA. So you'll be able to stack a bunch of cards into it, I think. But I think that for what you're buying the Mini for, the Mac Pros, everything else, I think you're ending up with an incredible amount of GPU speed. I just know that I'm doing 4 and 8K work on my Mini, and it's pretty quick.
Well, if I could add to that quickly, like if they have 32 and 64 gigabytes of RAM options and you're using unified memory, you now have a GPU that's being fed by 32 or 64 gigabytes of RAM, more or less. And that is unheard of, I think, when it comes to just GPUs in a laptop, never mind desktops.
And it's exchanging all that data back and forth is so much faster than the bus. So it really is a different. It's not, and where it falls down is people who are addressing those cards directly. So that's where it doesn't, where it may not be as efficient. But for when you're writing for it, and specifically when you're writing to metal, you're going to be in a better position.
So you're going to buy 10?
I'm not going to. I'll probably buy a couple.
And just to add to that again. Sorry.
I was going to say the new office hours already uses 5, and we already need another 5 to do what we're doing. And so we'll probably buy at least 3 to 5 of them. Yeah.
Renee?
I was just going to say, if you add to that, like Apple is increasingly moving off the big cores, which I think is smart because you're going to run into thermal envelope problems. Intel's run into them, AMD.
Even on a
Apple
desktop.
is running into them.
Even on a desktop.
Even on a desktop. But what they're doing, so they we talked about this last week, the A15, it's a double cold core. It's Blizzard and Avalanche, and the cache, the whole thing runs much cooler, runs way more efficiently, and they're putting a lot of stuff off the big CPU block, like the big compute cores with dedicated accelerators like H.264, H.265, now ProRes. The audio stuff is all off the cores. And if they have a box that not only has unified memory for the CPU, the GPU, the neural engine, which they're doing a lot more stuff on now too. Yeah. But they have dedicated ProRes blocks, dedicated H.264 blocks, dedicated audio processor blocks.
What an SoC.
That thing is going to scream.
Holy
never mind a GPU anymore. Like the whole idea of what a GPU did is being deprecated and spread all over a bunch of different.
You don't have discrete components. It's all in a SoC. Well, and is 64 gigs a unified memory? You think they can go that high?
Feeding the image processor, feeding the neural engine, feeding the ProRes encode decode blocks. Like it's a whole new way of thinking about computers.
This is exciting. Yeah.
I mean, and when you
it's an afterburner in a laptop.
Right.
And I think that, by the time we get to the Mac Pro, we could be talking 128, 256, those kinds of, and all of that stuff's being totally accessible by the GPU and the CPU, or mostly accessible.
So really what Monday will be is a day to kind of geek out on this platform, this new Apple Silicon platform and what it can do. And that makes a lot of sense. I don't think you dilute it with AirPods or anything else. This is all about Apple Silicon and what it can do.
Yeah, the one thing that occurs to me right after Alex said it is that they came out with, back when they were talking about the A10 and the Fusion, the thing they said was their secret sauce was a performance controller. It was the thing that could choose which core to direct any particular task to. And then when they announced the Neural Engine, they announced the ML controller, which could figure out between the AMX units on the CPU, the GPU, and the Neural Engine where to send machine learning tasks. They've built this entire infrastructure to be incredibly scalable. So when you start adding like 64, 128 cores, that's all just being handled. Like there's no one has to write anything for that. It's like, this is the available compute we have for you. We'll handle the efficiency part. You just tell us what you want to do, and everything else is done. And that is an amazing idea, I think, when it comes to silicon architecture.
It's going to be a very expensive.
And I have to say, I was saying 64 or I was like 120 or 256 gigs of RAM, not processors, but that would be really great too.
But cores, yes.
Cores, that would be amazing.
Why not? Just why not?
It could. I mean, it could, and I think that
for the Mac Pro.
The big thing is that there's this process of, to do this really well, you need to be able to make the hardware, you need to be able to do the software, you need to be able to have the IDE, all the things that are, you have to have all of those things to get this to really work. And so that's the hard part that everyone else has, is that Apple's going to start running down the path with this, and it's really hard to do what they're doing if you don't have, an entire vertical.
Well, so they got the whole thing. Right?
On top of everything else, this is a brand new opportunity for them they've never had before. Usually, they used to be able to sell hardware based on Mac versus Windows, or Mac OS versus Windows. Mm-hmm. Now I think they're really on a footing where they can start to say Apple Silicon versus Intel and AMD, because it was going to be enough for them last year when they made this announcement to say that it will work. You'll get better performance. Yeah. Things will not work worse. This is a safe thing to do. We are not entering into a 2 years of transition in which you'll have to choose between Intel or Apple Silicon, because Intel will be stable and work, and Apple Silicon is for early adopters. No, we are telling you that this is like drop-in replacement for whatever you have right now. This year and maybe next year, or when they do the NM2, is when they can say, no, look, we are establishing ourselves where we can flex ourselves as a chip manufacturer. If you want the most powerful machines that can do things that nothing else that at Best Buy can do, or anything else that's available for you for a purchase order can do, you want a Mac now, because here are the things that not only, and it's not, whereas AMD versus Intel is largely a battle of numbers, where you do have to go to an NTech and say, here are the numbers that this chip generated, here are the numbers that this chip generated, here's what this architecture will do for video, here's what this architecture will do for video. Apple can simply say, we have a platform that goes way, way beyond that. Here is every step of the way that is not turning down one single opportunity to increase performance from one end of the electron path to the dot on the screen.
Let me put a pin in this, because I want to take a break. We got to take a break. I do want to come back and continue this conversation. Normally, I would have moved on to the other stuff, but let's keep going on this. There's also news with NVIDIA ARM, and I want to get to that. So, I mean, if there's a competitor in this space, it's not Intel. If you ask me, it's NVIDIA.
It's AMD,
especially,
APU.
Yeah, well, maybe an AMD, but I think NVIDIA also. But we'll get to that in a second. Our show today brought to you by Udacity. Udacity is the place to get the skills you need to get the job you want in big tech. If you've been saying, I wish I could get to work for Apple or IBM or Microsoft or Google or Amazon, this is where you get those skills. Udacity offers you an online education program geared towards anybody looking to take their tech knowledge to the next level. They've specialized for the last decade in exciting content, and it really works, by the way. They could help take you further in the career you want. They offer the latest cutting-edge nano-degree programs, and you can't find these anywhere else. And by the way, Udacity, it's not just the learning. They're here to encourage your career growth. They want to give you the information about the career you want, give you the skills for that career, and then help you get that job. You shouldn't let the pandemic stop you from improving your skills. In fact, there couldn't be a better time to do this. One Udacity graduate lost his job. He was working at a Nigerian airline. COVID-19 laid him off. He decided, I got to do something. Decided to turn things around, applied for the Machine Learning Scholarship Program for Microsoft Azure. He got the scholarship. Within 6 months of receiving it, he transitioned into a career as a data analyst. And by the way, talk about job security. Check out one of Udacity's top 5 nanodegree programs: data engineering or product manager, data analyst, data scientist, programming for data science with Python. If you're looking into getting the most cutting-edge technology careers, you can get nanodegree programs in AI. How about this? Flying car and autonomous flight engineer. Yes, they have a nanodegree program for that. Intro to self-driving cars, machine learning engineer, robotics software engineer, and more. They're working with the biggest companies in the business. They select team leads at those companies to be the instructors. So you're learning from the best. You can get the knowledge from the experts who work in that field every day. It's not academic. These people know this stuff. And when you're signing up for a nanodegree program with Udacity, you can expect the courses to be project-based. I love that. Very much hands-on active learning. So you'll test your knowledge. You won't just learn it, you'll use it. Homework and projects will be reviewed by qualified professionals. You'll get real human feedback and reviews with access to mentors 24/7, plus flexible schedules, because you got to make this work with your current job, right? Whether it's 5 or 10 hours a week, it's at your own pace. You can graduate in as little as 3 months. If your team needs to master cutting-edge technologies like data science, AI, and cybersecurity, check out Udacity for Enterprise. You can upskill the entire workforce with real-world project-based learning. You'll find it all at the Enterprise section of Udacity's website today to learn more. So whether individual or business, Udacity's got the classes for you. Get the in-demand tech skills you need to advance your career. That's the bottom line. Visit udacity.com/twit. Right now, we got a great deal for you. 75% off any program. The offer code is TWIT75. Get a tech career with a $100,000 plus salary in 3 months. Does that sound good? TWIT75 will save you 75% for a limited time at udacity.com/twit. UDACITY, udacity.com/twit. And don't forget that offer code TWIT75. That way they know you saw it on MacBreak Weekly and we get credit. Thank you, Udacity, for preparing people for the next generation. The NVIDIA bid for ARM, which is now up to $54 billion, shows you how valuable ARM is, still on hold. And in fact, the EU is now saying, you know what, you didn't go far enough to allay our concerns. So Britain's antitrust agency said, you know, because the ARM is a British company, we're going to maybe investigate this now. The EU says it is. 4-month investigation. So I mean, it ain't going to happen.
The success of all the tech mergers recently, it's good to be prudent.
Be prudent.
Yeah.
And I'm of the opinion, I know NVIDIA is known for graphics processors for AI and, in-car chips and things like that. But honestly, I think their skills, you bring in ARM, that could make them a competitor to Apple, too, I think, in this space.
They could do it without buying ARM, though. ARM could be licensed, like AMD just licenses ARM or x86. And NVIDIA could have done this a long time ago. It's odd that they didn't, because AMD's been offering like end-to-end solutions, like APUs for a while now.
The real question, though, is, and I think I know the answer, can you do what Apple's done with Apple Silicon without owning the whole platform? I think you have to own the whole platform.
I don't know if you can't. I can say that the hill is much steeper. It's just a lot harder to do it that way.
Apple makes the whole stack. They do the operating system. They do the hardware. They build the machines. They can tune it to be exactly what their customers need.
Yeah. Well, exactly what they're building. Their Final Cut in Motion and the AR and all the other things are all being built into it. And when you think about AR as an extension of the desktop, which is what it'll probably become down the path, having all of that graphics and CPU and everything else just all embedded into the whole thing is really hard to do otherwise.
Describe what you're thinking here. Do you think we'll be wearing goggles when we're working on our desktop, or will it be a projection?
I think there might be goggles, but I think that we're, right now it's odd. But like if I get something on the phone, if I send you something on the phone right now, I did I'll be able to show it in a couple of weeks here. But we did an AR version of a hardware device that we were doing, and we actually animated it all in motion and did all the stuff, and it looked great. But we built a USDZ version. I can send it to somebody, they can click on it, and it pops up on their desk. We actually did a shot with it next to the real thing. And we told people, got to guess which one is real.
Wow.
And people were guessing the wrong one. Like it looked, because it pops out of your phone at scale. Like it just comes out at the same size. And we tried it, and it literally was the same size, same orientation. It looked great. And so as we think about that, though, imagine being able to, you're doing a presentation, with, in Keynote, and someone's watching, and, they can pull out their phone and look at it. But eventually, we think, the rumors are that there'll be glasses that you'll be able to, have on. I think they won't look like anything we've had before, and probably be a little lighter weight. But imagine being able to look down or look up and look over, and you just see what they're talking about, or looking at spin in it, but it's connected to your phone or your desktop or your, like all of those things are it's just an add-on when needed, that you would have there. And I think that. I think that it has to be more integrated, and a lot of people like me wear glasses all the time, so it'll just be something you're wearing that does the thing. I think that's what I hope. I don't know anything about it, but it's
on Saturday. Scott Wilkinson was talking about Lightfield Labs. Are you aware of this display that they're doing? I don't know if this is yet to be good enough to be a 3D AR display, but they're using reverse ray tracing. Here, let me show you So that this actually is called. So this actually fires into your eyes. In effect, they have, I can't remember, but a billion pixels, something like that. So as you move around, watches will move around a little bit. Obviously, the terrarium is real, but the chameleon is not. And as you move around it, it is projected into the space, and you don't have to stand in any particular place. It's true 3D without a glasses or anything like that. It's very interesting.
It's just that it'll always be, how do you get the big thing that Apple brings to it is being able to get an enormous number of people with access to it. A lot of these technologies are amazing, and you just don't know how public they will become. And how an Apple can.
I think the
roll it
vision
out
is
to 100
eventually
million people.
These are monitors, so I'm sure they're hugely expensive. But I think eventually the idea is 2.5 billion pixels, 40 pixels per square meter, and they're firing into your eyes. So as a result, they're able to basically give you something in front of you that makes you feel like you're looking at a 3D object, and you can move around it and so forth. I don't know. I'm just.
It'll be interesting to see.
There's a demo in LA if you want to go down there, Alex.
I'm gonna go check it out. Where is it in LA? Check it out.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm down there in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely look for Lightfield Labs. It's kind of like remember we used to have holograms. It's kind of like the real deal. Actually, maybe they're in San Jose. It looks like they're in San Jose. I thought Scott said he was going to see it. No, I guess he said he was going to come up to San Jose to see it. So they're inviting the press up to take a look at it. I would love it if you would and give us your.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find I'll reach out to him.
Lightfieldlab.com. Lightfieldlab.com. Very interesting stuff. So that's what I'm curious. I mean, nobody wants to wear. Microsoft shows people standing at their desk wearing HoloLens. No. Not for an 8-hour day. No, I don't. I'm not going to do that. Nobody wants to do that, right?
Well, and I think that what I think is interesting is something that would generally feel to people like it wasn't anything extra for them.
Yes,
that they wear it, and it's just especially for people who wear glasses, and fortunately for people who build glasses, myopia is a dominant gene. So there's an awful lot of people that have them, and so but if you have something that just feels like you're wearing it anyway, and then when it's needed, it comes up, and it's not something you put on to do something. Like you couldn't do that with glass. When I got glass when it first came out, and the problem was it was always pulling a little to the side, and it looked weird, and it had and there was all this stuff, and so it wasn't something that you could just wear around all day.
Well, the rumor is Apple's going to have those spectacles in a couple of years, right? That's not too far off, really.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? I know, it's
Someday.
hard.
It's like the car.
It's hard to do.
It's out there somewhere.
Spectacles or goggles? That's going to be the big question.
Oh, I don't want to wear goggles. I'm telling you. It's got to be like glasses, like Alex says, like spectacles.
I think the big thing with goggles is that it just has to be, and there has to be less friction about putting it on. If their goggles were something you could just put on and then you interact with it all and then you take them off and they generally just work. The problem is that Oculus, for instance, which I have all the Oculus things, And even Quest, you have to go to Facebook, and then you have to do this thing, and then you have to sign up for this thing, and it won't run by itself. And it's there's extra stuff that you have to do as opposed to just being able to, I'm just going to put it on and have it work. And that's what Apple's going to be able to do probably more effectively because they have everything else working. So if they did some kind of goggles, it'd probably be a lot. The friction of putting them on and having it immediately do what you want it to do is probably much lower.
Isn't the difference also between virtual reality and augmented reality? I mean, that's really, I don't want to be sealed off from the world. I want to be able to see the world. Well,
yeah,
sometimes
I think. I mean, sometimes I think that there are times when you want to what Renee said. I mean, I think there are times when being sealed off is quite nice if the resolution's high enough. The problem we've had up until now is it's hard. Like when someone said, when we saw video in the early 90s at 320 by 240, we were like, this is going to take over. And broadcasters were like, do you know how bad that looks? It's really pretty bad. And then, years later now, online is higher resolution than TV. So the resolution and frame rate and all these things become really, really important because, when you see 8K at 60 frames or 120 frames, it's an entirely different experience. In 8K per eye, even at 60 frames a second is compelling, but super expensive. They're like $100,000 of goggles, per pair, And so the thing is that when we get to a point where that price comes down and the performance is up there and you're looking at 8K per eye at 120 frames a second or whatever.
That's what Apple's is supposed to be, right? Like for 3K,
I don't know.
$2,000 for double 8K lenses.
If it is, it'll be amazing, and the thing is, but I will say that there's a point at about 6,000 pixels, 6K per eye or 8K per eye where the experience of being in VR is completely different, and as that frame rate goes up, you really start to feel like you're there. And so I think that what we've seen so far is it's not worth it because you put these goggles on and they're essentially low resolution, per eye. 4K per eye is still pretty low resolution and hard to do. And so I think that we have to get to the point where that resolution and the frame rates are where they need to be. And then it starts to get pretty interesting, as far as what you can do.
Yesterday, Magic Leap announced their Magic Leap 2 headsets. They're still around. I'm surprised. I thought they went out of business.
They just got a ton more money.
$500 million.
Yeah. But these are AR. I tried the first ones. They had a very narrow field of view, so you were seeing the world, and then there was projected into it this little box that had a virtual thing in it. This is a little bit larger field of view, apparently. But
that's the universal problem. That's the universal problem. When you have virtual reality goggles, you can create a completely immersive experience. Most people that I've talked to, actually myself included, when you try on these augmented reality goggles, you're so used to, like, it can produce a great experience staring dead ahead, so much so that you're disappointed when you turn your head and you realize that this machine is trying to keep up with you because it can't paint something into your peripheral vision. That's when you realize exactly how important your peripheral vision is to your perception of reality. That's where your cue is, that you can create an audio cue that says that, hey, there's something interesting or something you want to investigate off here to the right. But unless there's also a little flicker of light or something shadow twitching, it just doesn't sell. And so this is why it's going to be a while, I think, before augmented reality escapes from the net it's already in, which is great for training, great for like vertical markets. It's going to be a while before it matches the reality, what people are expecting from it.
Okay, we're excited. Monday, we'll be covering it 10 a.m. Pacific. That's 1 p.m. Eastern time, 1700, I guess it'll still be 1700 UTC. Yeah, we don't change. I keep forgetting that daylight saving has now been pushed till November, the end of daylight saving. So we will be doing that live. You can watch it twit.tv/live. Of course, you can watch the Apple stream directly, but if you want a little snark fest, no, I think this time it will really be oohing and awing. And Renee, do you I guess there's nowhere to go. You can watch it anywhere. Are they going to? Can you tell us whether you're going to get some briefings or anything, or do you know?
I never know. I always hope. It's always I have to do it either way. It's always easier, if I get to use their messaging. But
well, we'll be talking about 1 week from today as well, and I hope you'll be here for that. I hope you won't have to go somewhere.
For sure.
On the following day. Should be very exciting. I can't wait. I will be oohing and awing and probably saying, take my money.
Do we want rounded bezels like the Surface, or do we want square bezels like MacBooks have always had?
Well, it depends. Are you talking about actual rounded bezels, or are you talking about, oh, well, there's some pixels that are there in the display, but we're not going to show them to you?
My mouse can go to them, but I can't see them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
very annoying. I don't like that at all. Is that what the Surface does? That's nuts.
Yeah.
I don't like
Yeah,
that at all.
and it really it does. It's not going to affect performance. It's not going to affect, but it's just annoying.
It's
like-
unaesthetic. Yeah.
It's like when you spend that much money on a car and there's
want
a little
every
extra
pixel.
click when you shut the door.
Yeah.
It's like, why couldn't you have just made the door just click perfectly instead of just giving me this little annoying?
Yeah. Good. I'm excited. I can't wait. I don't have a desktop Macintosh. I guess I'll have to get the Mini to go with my 55-inch OLED display.
One thing that is starting to build up for me is that I do feel like Apple needs to do a monitor, because I feel like they have one big one, but that's more than I want to spend on a monitor. And the problem is I have lots of Dell monitors right now that I have them all on arms, and I swing them around, and that's why the Mac Minis work. But I'm kind of like, I need a really good HDR monitor that isn't $6,000 or $5,500 or whatever. And so like
I think this
$2,000 or $3,000
OLED was from Alienware was about $2,000. So that's not
not
too
bad.
bad. 55
You know,
inch.
if you're out of
it's really
Alex
nice.
Lindsay budget, you've not nailed your market. Alex is like, no,
Yeah,
no,
you're really
like,
a little
like, you've
too
just
expensive if Alex won't buy it. Yeah.
I have
limits.
one. I just don't want to put 4 of them up on
Yeah, I understand.
in my desk.
Oh, that's another question. Will they? I'm sure they will solve the multi-monitor issue.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
We'll have more Thunderbolt lanes.
If you have more lanes, more monitors.
All they got to do is give me 3 monitors on a Mac Mini, and that'll make me happy. Two is really good. 3 is, well, I know, but I'm talking about
you're
about
right.
M1
Mandy has set
on an
up
Apple
Andy.
Silicon Mac Mini is what he wants.
Yeah,
I wanna
on
see
Apple
Andy, like,
Silicon.
No,
Mac
I know,
Mini.
I know there are ways to do that, but I want to have like 3 Thunder. I don't want to have to buy. I want to be able to buy. I want to be able to buy 3 monitors, not 3 monitors plus 3 jury rig things. I know.
HyperX has a new thing that gives you 2 monitors with a single port. So
People, I'm saying that most consumers are thinking, oh, well, I plug this right into the back, right? Because I have all these extra ports. They're not thinking, oh no, you buy this extra box and then you make sure that this works is configured correctly. And yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you, but I'm like, have you ever been in Twitter mode where it's like you say that I'm going to say, oh gosh, it's really too bad. I wish I had a longer cable for this, and then because you're just making just a little. Oh, it's the Monday, and I'm just complaining a little bit, and you get 18 people that are saying, oh, you should get a hub, because a hub. I'm like, I know there's such a thing called a hub. Please, I'm not saying that. Please solve my problem for me. I'm saying that I'm
Andy's
just
in beast
annoyed.
mode. Leave him alone.
Yeah, sorry.
any one more thing that they might say? I think not. I think they should just. This should be
iMac
chip
won't be ready.
fest.
I think that'll be the one thing we don't get yet.
The 32-inch
The
iMac,
32-inch
the bigger.
iMac,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
The-
next
the only
year.
question-
That and the Mac Pro are next year, probably, right?
Yeah. The only question we haven't really discussed yet is, are they going to open up pre-orders immediately, or are they going to wait until, say, they'll be available for pre-orders starting November 12th, or they're going to, for some models, are they going to say this will be available by the end of 2021?
Yes. Oh,
I think that.
like the
I think
length
it'll
of Mac
be.
Pros.
I think it'll be like 10 days after it. I mean, it'll be like the end of the week. And I have to admit,
We've been waiting
it's just
so
insane.
long. I mean, I think that they've been stocking them up since June in warehouses, right?
What I think is
Cook's
insane
built a
is
fort.
is that I get up, I get up early, so it's 5 o'clock to order is not a big deal. But my watch, I ordered it. I ordered it at 5:12 in the morning, and I'm like 3 weeks in.
Are you really?
The
Well,
watch
this is
was
for the Series 7.
super supply constrained, though.
Oh my gosh, I was like 3 weeks in 12 minutes. So
Why did you buy the new watch?
I have a 4.
You have a really old one. Okay.
I have a version 4. So
I toyed with
that's
it
why I got the
briefly,
watch.
but then I thought, well, I've got the Series 6.
I said that about 5, and I said that about 6.
Yeah.
And 7, I
It's
was
time.
like, okay, it's time to get
Now
a
it's
watch.
time.
And my battery's starting to get little
This
it
is
doesn't
gonna
last as long.
I think you're gonna love this. Yeah.
So the watch
Always
I
on.
thought I was going to buy one every year, and I did. I bought 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I was like, okay, this is crazy.
Slow down.
Like, they're not
Yeah,
getting.
me too.
And
This is the first time
and
I
then I
haven't
slowed
bought
down.
the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Every once in a while, you see Epic come on stage with Apple to show off the capabilities of their processor. Won't be happening this year.
I don't think that'll happen.
That's going to happen this year. But maybe Zynga with FarmVille 3. It's back, ladies and gentlemen. It's back for the iPhone, the iPad, and Mac OS. If you missed FarmVille, the classic Facebook game from 12 years ago. And I
Is this
didn't even
supposed to counteract the negative publicity that Mark Zuckerberg has been
I thought
experiencing?
Zynga was out of business, to be honest with you, but apparently FarmVille is back. Okay, that's all I need to say about that. I am looking for a new game.
A Squid Game FarmVille mashup. That would have been an interesting IP.
Ooh. And they actually kill you if you don't win? That'd be
Well, the
kinda-
animals, not us.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
like, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to get too dark.
It's pretty dark. It's a dark show. It's a very dark show. So it's doing so well in
That's
South
good 'cause-
Korea that the South Korean ISPs are going to Netflix saying you need to pay us for this bandwidth.
Doing
So many
better than
people
the
are
other
watching
top
this
three
show.
Netflix shows combined, like The Witcher and all of those combined. Yeah.
I don't think it's that. I only watched the first episode last night just so I could talk about it.
Someone was explaining it as like a Mr. Beast video if there were no laws. That was like the way it was described.
It's vicious. It's really vicious.
I just don't need. I'll wait till 2020
Yeah,
when the skies are sunnier,
Yes,
when the
thank
birds
you.
are singing again.
Thank
I just
you.
don't.
Don't need any
I'm not.
dark
I'm not judging. I'm just saying that I'm tabling this for a sunnier day. That's all.
Apple did declare victory, of course, with the judge's ruling in the Epic case. Epic walked out with a long face. Now I know why Apple was so happy. They are appealing, and they're asking the judge, look, since we're appealing, can we have a stay on the order to put that big button on there that says you can buy something somewhere else? We don't. That's a lot of work. In case they lose on appeal, let's just wait, right?
We're just two hippies in a garage, for God's sakes.
But I will say that anybody who thinks that 3 months is enough to change an entire infrastructure
That's a lot. No, I
that's
agree.
naive.
Yeah.
You know, like it takes that long it takes a year to spec it. You know, like to figure out how you're going to hand off all of those things in a reasonable way. And so it was you know, that's a ruling done by a judge that doesn't understand technology. You know, it's so and how long it takes to develop things. And so I get that they're in a rush and they said what they're going to say, but the stay A is completely reasonable, and B, if it happens, it's over. Like but they'll have a different business model by the time it comes through. Like,
Well, and that's the point. If you wait till after the appeals are done, the appeals could go for years.
But it is unreasonable to, if you're appealing something, it is reasonable to say that we probably don't have to recode everything until we figure it out. You know, because
Apple
the
doesn't
chances
have
of
to
this
recode a thing. No, Apple just has to allow third parties to add the buttons in there.
Well, it's changing the
apps.
entire business model. You know,
Yeah, but
like
there's no. But it's not
Well,
that. Alex,
they've done that. They've done that a couple times before in the past 2 or 3
not
years.
that
in
hard to
response
do. You just have to say, okay, you can do it now.
Yeah, but they still
also
it's
$2 trillion
their
company.
ecosystem, so they still have to figure out how they're going to charge them.
No,
you know, like there's
no.
Oh, yeah, they do.
No. All the judge says is you have to add in-app links to external payment websites. So if I'm on a Netflix, I'm using the Netflix app, and all it is, because Apple won't let you say you could buy this online instead of paying Apple 30% big.
But what's going to happen is that all of us, that, you know, the consumer, again, the user, is going to now have all these greedy little companies who want their little extras they're going to all put those things on it. So what was this nice little thing that we have where we can just order what we want and manage it all?
Don't besmirch Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers, because I think she's actually very technical. And this is not a hard thing for Apple to do, because Apple doesn't have to do anything. But it is a big hit to their bottom line, potentially.
Well, and it's a hit to the user. It is a hit to the user. Like it is a hit to the user.
I think it's a hit to the user that when I'm using the Kindle app, I can't buy a book. I have to exit out of the Kindle app, go to the web, buy a book, and then go back into the Kindle app to download the book.
But what it's going to do is
hit.
it's going to constantly push us out. And so the thing is the way that the users, I'm prepping all the users, the way that we should handle this is 1 star for everything that does this. Just 1 star. You know, like it's
what?
And the thing is that
guess what, Alex?
Give everybody 1 star.
Guess what, Alex? People actually want this.
Yeah, we'll see.
You're wrong, Alex. You're saying you like the experience of reading a book in the Kindle app and then having to exit out to buy the book?
I buy it on Amazon. I don't even think about it because it's one app. But the thing is it's going to pull us out all the time. Like it's going to be mass chaos for the users because right now our subscriptions are all managed. Our subscriptions are all managed inside our you know, I don't have to think about where my credit card is going. I just say buy and it's all tied up. It's a nice little packaged secure experience that's no longer going to be there. You know, it's because
I should point out, by the way, some developers are already building software
and what I'm
saying is they're so excited about this.
Maybe some people will be excited about it. No, the developers are excited about it. The users are not going to be. And all I can say is if you're a user and you don't like it, give them 1 star. You know, just give them 1 star. And it doesn't matter. Not all of us have to not like it. If 50,000 of us don't like it, it
won't make any difference because the judge ruled. Now,
No.
I think the judge is going to give them a stay because it isn't unreasonable to say, all right, Your Honor, you know, we're on appeal. Yeah. I think that's not unreasonable. So I suspect, we don't know, but I suspect in November, Judge Rogers will say, all right. Because that was the only count they lost on with Epic. But if she doesn't give them the stay and they have to implement it, it's pretty much a flip of it. There's nothing to do. You just have to stop enforcing that rule.
It's collecting the fees that Tim Cook wants to collect from people regardless of whether they use the App Store or not. That takes a little bit of work. But they'll proceed without that.
Oh, yeah, because they said they're going to invoice.
They're not going to wait for him.
They're going to invoice Amazon and Netflix and all the companies and say, we want that 30%, please.
Well, and again, for you just watch what happens because now what used to be a simple in-app purchase or a simple purchase or what we want to use is going to be now you have to go. It's what's going to happen like when you wanted to watch something on your Apple TV and now it wants a code that you have to type in that you have to go to your cable provider. That's what it's going to be like for everything, you know. And the thing is that, you know, and the only way for us as users to fight back from that is to give them 1 star.
Okay.
And possibly lost.
Okay, Alex is going to go on this crusade. Everybody,
but here's the thing:
everybody give
just remember,
1 star.
the thing is that 3,001 stars will give it a 1 star, and then how many people are going to buy it? You know, like so. The thing is, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be the majority. You just have to be the vocal minority.
Oh, and then you convince the developers not to do this.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you just pound the app into the ground. Right. So the thing is if you're listening to this and you don't like where it's going, when they do it, give them 1 star.
All 5 of you can give them 1 star.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All 5 Apple employees plus Alex can do this.
We'll see.
I really don't understand, Alex. Your religious.
I honestly, I was about to say. Because the thing is, it's okay for Apple to have more problems. They're equipped to deal with those problems. And if we're going we never know exactly how a change is going to affect the entire infrastructure. There's no way to predict that. However, I do lean towards a change in infrastructure that makes things easier for the companies that do not have $2 trillion and for the users who are just trying to get a better experience. I don't feel as though a simple change is every single simple change is going to rip out this one tent pole that's keeping the entire service.
No, it's just going to.
If it's not better for the user, it's because of Apple that it's not better for the user.
No, it's not better for the user.
No, wait a minute, Alex.
We can order everything through our .Mac account.
Apple could make it so that I'm in the Kindle app, buy the book in the Kindle app, and Apple doesn't take 30%. That Apple could make it easier, but they won't. So if there is blame,
and neither does Microsoft, and neither does Sony, and neither does Google. Like none of them.
Microsoft charges 1%.
But this is an Apple podcast.
For the App Store.
This is not.
For the Xbox.
No, not for the
Xbox.
For the Microsoft 30% store on Windows.
That no one uses. The Microsoft Store that no one uses.
Well, we'll see. That's actually changing too.
So anyway, but it's easy to give 1% when there's nothing there. So the thing is that the issue is that they built an ecosystem. They have the right to charge for it, but I don't really care about Apple's rights. What I care about is my right to keep it simple. Like this is the one thing that actually works.
Then you should blame Apple for not keeping it simple because
Apple
is the reason it's not simple. Apple's rules are the reason it's not simple. You could easily in the Kindle app have a button that buys a book. But Apple's decided that no matter what, we're taking 30%. So Apple's the one that's making this hard, Alex, not anybody else. If you were mad, you should be mad at Apple.
If I built a mall that was set up all this way and I let people use it for free, and all I'm saying is that if you come in here and sell in my infrastructure, they built it. They built it. The thing is that I don't think that people have the right to say, well, just because you're the most successful, you now have to give it all up. They just did it a lot better than everyone else.
They're not saying that at all. That's completely untrue.
Yeah.
There has to be an area in which in which a government is allowed to impose a ruling upon a large corporation that says that we just have decided that you're acting unfairly towards a market or towards individuals.
Like cable.
And that if they do decide to impose that ruling, that doesn't mean that they're trying to screw everybody over, and that once again, we will have peace without honor, we will have dogs and cats living together, etc. Now, I will end this, I'll end my part of the discussion because we can go into for another 20 minutes, but I don't agree that this change is going to create a huge problem that is going to be anti-user. I think you're worried for nothing, and I think that you're making it very, very easy for Apple to,
if this goes through in 3 to 5 years, we'll have the conversation again. But it's going to be interesting to see all these little stores, and if it goes through, which I don't, if this stay happens, it'll never happen because it won't make it through the courts. You know, like this is not, it's too weak of a case.
I think that's the argument for Judge Rogers not to issue the stay is if you issue the stay, it'll never happen because it's just going to go all the way.
But the issue is that,
and by then
it's going to go to the Supreme Court and they're going to lose. Like in the Supreme Court. And so the thing is that this is...
Well, Alex, I know you have strong religious feelings about that, but I don't think that's clear. This is a company called Paddle that thinks that stay is not going to happen. They are already ready. Notice, this is a demo on an iPhone. They're already ready to provide a third-party payment infrastructure. In fact, they even say on their website, the Epic versus Apple verdict clears the way for app creators to choose an alternative. So Paddle, but Paddle's probably watching with great interest what happens in November because there will be no opportunity for them to do this if the judge offers the stay. So we shall see. We shall see.
1 star. 1 star. Remember, it doesn't have to be everybody. It just has to be enough people.
Just a few nutcases. Moving on to other stories. Great article. Thank you, Halide, about how Apple's macro technology works. They do great stuff.
Have you guys played with it much? Have you guys played with the macro?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's interesting because the folks who do Halide have announced they're going to add this macro capability to all iPhones that have you have to have a wide-angle lens. I can't remember, but this is
they're a digital version.
It's a digital version, and it's interesting tricks that they're playing. But it's also, if you just want to know about how Apple's doing it, it's really interesting to read this. And then and then at the end of it, they say, "Oh, and by the way, we're going to do it too," which is kind of interesting. I've tried a little bit their technique. This is what's interesting is. This video, as Apple is switching from to the macro mode and then out of the macro mode, it's actually switching lenses, and you can see the crop change, and so that's what's kind of a revelation when you put it together like this. And this is, I think, what people like
Marquez, what other vendors do.
It's the way you do it. It's how you have to do the macro on the wide angle, right?
Yeah. The ultra-wide, yeah.
Ultra-wide, I should say, yeah.
It's stunning. I mean, it's just so much fun. You just want to keep on taking pictures of things.
It's kind of interesting. I didn't realize how much Apple's doing this, but apparently there's quite a bit of lens switching going on.
It is. I do wish that they would give us manual control over that. Like I find it to be like it's a stunning camera, and I wish that I could. I'm hoping that Halide and Filmic and other folks. I hope they have the ability to just go in there and just say, I want to use this lens, and
give them the
manual transmission.
I think they kind of do have pro controls at this point, right?
I think
pretty close to it.
But the one in the camera, that's the issue, is that it keeps on switching when I don't really want it to.
Right.
I'd rather figure out where to put the camera rather than having the camera. You feel like you're fighting it. Like it's like, oh, I'm in the wrong place. Now I got to turn this in, and you're kind of dancing with it as opposed to just like, hey, just give me this lens, and then I'll figure out where to put the camera.
Ben Sandovsky writes, believe it or not, Apple has pulled off this silent cropping for years. If you tried to focus on something too close for the telephoto lens to handle, or the scene just requires more light, the iPhone quietly switches over to the wide-angle lens and then crops it. So it's the same view. It's like a telephoto shot, but it's using a different lens kind of without your knowledge. It's kind of clever.
Their whole thing has always been like, that's an implementation detail. Like, we're putting all these cameras
you don't need to know
we can do a bunch of stuff. You just need a good picture, and we're going to give you that. Let us manage the rest of it.
Although to respond to the complaints, Apple has apparently put in a toggle on the auto macro in beta 3 of iOS 15.1, right? Is that right? Are you using it yet?
Yeah, there were some reviewers like Ray Wong. I didn't initially think about it. I thought it was great because like you didn't have to manage it. When you got close, you would just go into macro mode. But he pointed out sometimes he wants a blurry object up front and focus on something behind. And with this feature, it would just automatically macro the thing in front. So it removed options instead of making it just easier. So I think this is good because people who don't know any better will just take their macros, and people who are like, no, I'm an artsy photographer, I want that control, they'll turn it off and do it on their own.
Sandovsky compares it to a manual transmission versus gear shift. That some people want to shift the gears. Most people will just want the automatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've never driven with a 5-speed, you're going to hate it. You're not going to know what to do. I did. Halide is amazing, and since I didn't buy the iPhone 13, so I don't have the macro mode. It's nice to at least have that feature. This is the latest version of Halide 2.5 with macro mode, and true to any real camera, macro mode has a traditional button of a flower, and they say because our designer is Dutch, it's a tulip.
Sebastian DeWitt, yeah. It's really cool that Apple surfaces all these APIs as well. Like Halide, they are pure unadulterated genius, but they get so much from the APIs, like the depth APIs and the camera APIs. And when they make the app, they can target just an immense amount of phones. So it's really economical for them to make an app like Halide.
Yeah. We are getting the Alex Lindsay update to the iPhone and the iPad, iOS 15.0.2. Alex, you always say
this is the one you start to
wait to this one.
Time to upgrade.
Don't do the big update. Don't do the fix to the big update 15.0.1. Do the fix to the fix. We're here.
That's exactly.
And it didn't take much time. Didn't we get 15.01 like last week?
Yeah, they're getting better. Yeah.
What does
it just means that they fixed less things. Like you'd still want to wait a little while, but yeah.
Maybe go 15.0.3.
I don't know. It's more, to me, it's more time than what version. Like it's I like to come in. 2 months after.
Don't be too
let
quick.
Everything kind of settle in. Yeah.
Well,
I'm
and as I
just
mentioned,
deciding to move my iMac to Big Sur.
Wow.
So I'm upgrading it. I have Big Sur on a couple other machines, but the one that I use, I kind of and I have one computer still on Mojave. You kind of, because there's always apps that you can't open and stuff like that. So you never want to like turn everything all the way, dial everything forward. So
right.
At least I don't.
And as I mentioned, they're already beta testing 15.1.
Right.
So I don't know what it's kind of confusing. I guess I won't pay attention to the betas. 15.0.2 fixes some security issues, including the I/O mobile frame buffer, an app which would allow an application to execute arbitrary code with kernel privileges. Those are words you don't want to hear. Here's worse. Apple is aware of a report this issue may have been actively exploited. I'm going to bet this is another high-end exploit for governments that can afford it. But I don't know, right? CVE 2021-30883, memory corruption issue addressed with improved memory handling in 15.02. There are other consumer-focused benefits, I'm sure.
Yeah, just a ton of bug fixes.
AirTag, is that the one you were talking about?
Yeah.
MagSafe. AirTag may not appear in Find My Items tab. That's been fixed. Photos saved to your library for messages could be deleted after removing the associated message. That's been fixed. The iPhone leather wallet with MagSafe may not connect to Find My. That's been fixed. CarPlay may fail to open audio apps or disconnect during playback. That's been fixed. And device restore or update may fail when using Finder or iTunes for iPhone 13 models. So it's a lot of little bugs. That's what you'd expect, though. When you release a big iOS update, lots of reports will come in from people as they start using it. I don't know the touchscreen responsiveness issue. Any word whether that's gone away or not? We thought it kind of had gone away with .1, right?
Yeah. That's the reports I heard.
Okay, so.
It turns out I've tested it, and shaking it violently does not make the screen. You always do this, so you're like, why isn't this working? And pounding on it with your finger like this, it doesn't.
So were you having that hesitation thing happen?
Yeah, I wasn't having a hesitation. Every once in a while, my thing was just like knock. I was like, I will not listen to you anymore. Like I just see image, and I'm just like, and I just would close it and open it again. It was okay, but it was
That's weird. Yeah, I've had that happen, I guess, come to think of it. I just didn't notice it. I mean, that's, it's just, I'm used to computer's not working. These things happen. Here's some shot on iPhone pictures on Instagram commissioned by Apple using the new the ultra wide. Oh, these are pretty. These are cool shots on the iPhone 13. That was by Zerb M. This is by Cody C. Just to prove that wide angle doesn't have to be distorted and weird. Oh, I like that, by Jake M. Jason N. Are these professionals, do you think? Or these are, I get the feeling they're, well, that guy is. That's a Jason Nocito Studio. That's pretty.
Yeah, they have a mix.
Ryan James Carruthers. Sir Julian James. So wide you have to take 2 frames to show it all.
He's a super spreader.
Wow. That's great. 207,000 likes on Apple's Instagram account, @Apple.
Hopefully these aren't Finstas or Blumenthal's going to engage again.
Oh, my God. It's a Finsta. I see you, Finsta. Apple has turned on a way to automatically generate 2 factors and autofill 2 factors. And that's part of iOS 15. I did not know about this. Renee, have you used this? The integrated 2FA? It's an integrated 2-factor code generator.
Oh, yeah. It's so like the password managers have been doing this for a while now, and Apple's built into their keychain, which is their version of a password manager. They just keep adding more and more features to it, so that if all you need is increasing basic functionality, you can do it. My thing is that as they're moving towards doing this, like both myself and Dieter Bohn have been running into this issue where Google asks for the 2FA, but they will not accept your authenticator code. They will only accept an OK from a Gmail app on a Pixel or an iPhone.
Yeah.
And you may not have that phone anymore.
Yeah. You can choose alternate authentication methods, but for some reason, some of them aren't offered. This is kind of cool.
So
I'm going to have to try this.
I found out
Go ahead.
I found out it's because login and re-authentication are separate streams, and they're not. The re-authentication one isn't as advanced as the login one yet.
Oh, interesting. So if you are trying to add 2-factor to a site, which you should, if you're not using 2-factor on every possible site, and I think this is probably okay. Normally, I like to have the authentication separate from the password manager in case one is breached, the other is still secure, but if you don't, it's so convenient. When you see the QR code, it's so convenient. When you see the QR code, you long press it, and you'll get a pop-up that says, set up a verification code, and then it will set it up, fill it in, and then it'll auto-fill it from then on, which I think is pretty fantastic. I like that. So next time,
they're also working on a token system where you're not even going to have like the password anymore. It's going to generate an authentication token for you immediately. So like everyone is pushing towards better, more password-free worlds. It's just taken a while to get there.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you think about it, 2FA is about something you have, something you know, and something you are, biometrics. And the phone includes the biometrics. So you really got 2s already because you've got biometrics and the physical possession of the device.
But it's not even what you know anymore because none of us can remember our 32-bit pseudo-random blobs.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got two things we have basically, and if they can reduce that to something that the code that the secure enclave on the chip generates for you, that's signed by the device that you have in your possession, that'll just make life so much simpler for everybody.
So if you already have 2FA set up, as I do, and I use Authy, unfortunately, you're going to have to turn it back off and turn it back on again, and then you can do it with iOS. The only reason I'm not going to do that is because I also use other devices like Android and Linux and Windows, and so it would be...
Yeah.
I guess I still have to get out the phone, so it just really would tie it to my Mac. And I presume it works on the Mac too, right? Does it work on the Mac?
It will with Monterey.
Okay. So maybe I'll wait till Monterey, because at that point, then that's pretty good, because for any 2-factor, I still need a phone that has Authy on it.
So you'd be tied to Safari is the only thing. It's
it only works in Safari? Oh, screw you.
I believe so, yeah.
Well, you could go into the password and see the code, right? The 6-digit code.
Yeah.
But that's a pain compared to opening.
Well, that's why like LastPass and 1Password and Dashlane, a lot of those are doing all the same. Like you can basically pick your weapon of choice at this point.
Yeah, and it's the reason I recommend it generally is because let's say you were using LastPass and LastPass was doing the authentication codes. Once LastPass is breached, if it were breached, you'd be out of luck. So I liked separating it. Nobody's going to breach my
authenticator.
Yeah, nobody's going to breach my keychain. And if they do, there's a lot more hazards than just being able to log into my Quicken. Yeah.
I don't know if it's on the list, but did you see that Google is going to actually start using UIKit on the iPhone?
Yeah. I just pasted that link in.
I love that story.
If it was
instead of material design, their own design language, they're going to use Apple's. Well, they should.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Farquhar just tweeted this out. He's a staff engineering lead for Google Design on Apple platforms. I don't know why this wasn't a blog post, but long like Twitter chain in which he was talking about how originally the motive for making iOS apps that look a lot like material design apps was number one because this is our design language. This is what we want a consistent sort of interface. But also he was saying that UI at the time when we started on this project, UIKit didn't have a whole lot of stuff that we could actually use, so we had to build what was missing. And then it was actually a very nice thread because he said, earlier this year it sort of hit us that UIKit has evolved a lot in the past few years. That now we're just simply making these things look like Android apps because that's the way we've always done it. So now it's time to. Is it now necessary for us to do all that sort of stuff? So he announced that as a result of that, they're moving back into UIKit. Partly to make things look more natural for Apple users, but also simply because this will be so much less work for us if we don't have to keep maintaining and building all of these material UI on iOS UI components.
Nice. And it's always good to be native on the platform that you're on. It's always a better.
Yeah, it's an interesting problem for them to have to solve. I think that Google absolutely believes that Google Docs, Google Sheets, all their Google services, they're a platform in and of itself. So that for the same reason why if you're running Windows inside a virtual window inside a Mac, why would you have this? Why would you redress this Windows interface to look like a Mac? I think that's part of what their thinking is, that they want people to leap from Google Docs in a browser to Google Docs in an Android app to Google Docs elsewhere without having to readjust to, wait a minute, why isn't there a floating button to create a new document? Why isn't this menu bar, this menu hamburger there? But nonetheless, they've been getting a lot of blowback from that from a lot of people. I
wonder if Apple will start using material design and messages for Android. Oh, never mind.
Well, I think that the hard part is that I didn't use the Google apps on my phone because they looked. I was just like,
they looked ugly,
weird. Yeah, they're just they weren't. They were very unpleasing to use, and so as a result, I just stopped. I was like, if I want to work on an Android device, I'll work on an Android device, but I wanted to otherwise just work exactly the way I'm used to everything else on my phone working.
If Apple were designing Android apps, I guess they have a couple. That they should use material design on those apps too, right? And they should try to make them look like an Apple.
Yep. I agree.
App. Yeah. You just want to look like it's native.
Yeah, it's the right move. It's not like Google was being churlish at the start, but it's good for them to. It's good for the director of this program to admit that, okay, well, we kind of lost our heads there. They're in life, in business, everywhere. You always have to ask yourself, why am I doing the thing that I'm doing? Because sometimes you started doing that 5 or 6 years ago for an excellent reason, but 5 years later, that reason is no longer operative, and now you're just wasting time and causing problems.
And the hard part is that
because there's like a.
Go ahead, Alex. First, then.
It's like,
go ahead, Renee. You're on camera.
No, it's just
we'll save switching.
You sometimes have you have these issues sometimes where the company wants their brand. Like Netflix wants to look like Netflix, Instagram wants to look like Instagram, TikTok wants to look like TikTok, and so they'll make their apps look the same. They don't look like UIKit apps. They don't look like material design apps. So it's like YouTube's supposed to look like UIKit now just because it's on iPhone and not be competitive with every other video player that puts their brand first. Or when you hire a famous designer, they want you to know that it's the famous designer doing it but then you have the designer, the brand, and the platform. It's a lot to navigate sometimes, and it can make some very confusing apps at times.
And I think the challenge, though, if you're an Apple developer or an iOS developer, is that Apple moves really quickly, and they're not that committed to backwards compatibility. So if you start like building up your own thing, like a good example is Playback Pro is something that in events we used for years, a decade. And what they did is they figured out how to write custom code to do the playback so that it'd be more stable and you could have more control over your outputs. And it was a really good business until Apple, changed the operating system. And then they became less and less stable, and other things that were just sitting on top of the foundation, toolkits just went right past them. And so Apple will tell you, hey, you should probably write to Metal. And everyone who ignored Apple is now in the M1 world is totally screwed. like anybody who said, "Oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing." If they didn't write to Metal, they really have a lot of unwriting to do because they're going to keep falling behind. And so I think that's the real challenge is that getting outside of the Apple infrastructure is something that just is an enormous amount of work, which Google can do, but most people can't.
Let's take a little break, come back. More to come in just a bit with Alex Lindsay from 090.media and, of course, Office Hours. We'll get an update on what's going on over there in a little bit. Also, Renee Ritchie from his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. Curious about your upcoming projects. We'll do that in a second. And Mr. Andy Anako from WGBH in Boston. I got I think it was on our Discord, our Club Twit Discord, somebody said, make Andy write more. I miss his writing. Seriously. Are you writing at all anymore?
I know I absolutely am. I'm at about 5,000 words a week, and hopefully you will be able to see it. I've been backloading a new project so that when I announce it, it won't be here's like what I wrote today. So again, I want when I'm ready to like take the wraps off of this thing, I want people to like, oh wow, so he's actually been doing this for like months and months. If you want to find out what I think about something that happened in like April or like January, you will be able to find 1,000, 2,000 words on that earlier.
Nice. So that I will tell that person they will be very, very happy.
And thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's difficult to find a place that will just let me do exactly what I want to do quite correctly. It's like when you can just say, well, just trust me, I will give you 1,000 words a couple of times a week on topics that will probably not get you sued. It's like,
that's attractive. Well, come on, maybe that's quite a pitch you got there.
Yeah, exactly.
And he won't get you sued, kids. See, I don't think they were even thinking that until you said it. Now they're thinking, maybe he's going to get sued.
How interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, really. Has that happened before? What's going on? Yeah. Our show today brought to you by Hover.com. If I were to go through each panelist and ask them how many web domains they own, I would bet the total would be well over 100. Actually, I think I own 100 all by myself, and they're all on Hover. All on Hover.
Yeah, all on Hover.
All on Hover. Hover is the place. Look, having a custom domain is not like having a custom license plate. It's not optional for a business. You don't want to be at yahoo.com or at AOL.com. You don't want your email going there. You don't want your website to be there. You want to have a custom domain. I would submit even for individuals. In fact, the best gift I ever gave my kids when they were born is to register their names as .coms, and I registered it for 20 years, figuring they'd want them by then, and they do. They use them, and I think it's just really having a custom domain. It's not a custom license plate. It's a way of saying who you are. If you're an artist, it's a place to put your portfolio. If you're a blogger, your blog or your online store, just, you could even be a more memorable link to your LinkedIn page, Hover, I have custom email domains. I have custom domains for my servers, everything. My private servers, my public servers. And the best place to register them, Hover, because they don't bug you trying to upsell you with a lot of junk. The prices are right. They've got the best domain names. They're a huge selection these days. It's not just .com, .net, .org. They got .pizza, .republican, .democrat. It goes. It's amazing the domain TLDs you can use these days. That's what those are called, TLDs, top level domains. And email, I think, is the very first one you should take a look at. Email at your domain. Here's the advantage. First of all, it doesn't ever change because you own it. So you can do whatever you want. You can go to any host you want, but you don't have to worry about telling everybody, oh, I've moved. A lot of people moving off AOL all of a sudden. Kind of hard if you've been in on AOL.com for 25 years to tell everybody, oh, I got a new email address. With your own domain name, you don't have to worry about it. And by the way, take a look at Hover's email offerings. They have a really nice, very inexpensive domain-based email for all your needs, small or large. It's easy to set up. You can add as many mailboxes to your domain as you need. And the nice thing is when your domain renews, then you can turn on auto-renew if you want, which I do because I don't want to forget. Your mailboxes renew as well, automatically. Great prices. Their most popular mailbox is a no-brainer solution for business owners. And it's real email. You get access from anywhere. You can use any email app you like already. And they have webmail, too. So you've got webmail. You've also got IMAP servers for whatever app you want to use. And Hover never upsells you on anything you don't need. Pro-level tools, if you already know how DNS works and you want to, I do all the time, go in there, manage my DNS, you can do that. But they also have simple tools, things like auto-connect features, one-button connect to some of the biggest blog and other sites, Shopify, domains like that. Easy to use, whether you're a web pro or just getting started. Of course, privacy's foremost with Hover.com. That's why they give you Whois privacy automatically with your domain purchase. It's not an upsell. It's just they know you want it, so they keep your information private, reduce spam, protect yourself. Hover Connect, that's the service I talked about that makes it very easy to connect to your website. At Hover, most importantly, you're a customer, not a source of data. So take back control of your data with a reliable, tracking-free email. Hover is trusted by hundreds of thousands of customers like everybody on this panel. We use their domain names and email to turn our ideas into reality. You should too. Whether you're a developer, a photographer, a small business, Hover has something for you to expand your projects and get the visibility you want. Hover.com/twit. Right now, you get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the whole first year. A little way of thanking you for using that domain, Hover.com/twit, that address, because then they know you saw it here. And that's important to us. 10% off for you. Gold star for us. Hover.com/twit. 10% off for a whole year on your first domain extension. And Hover, we thank you so much for your longtime partnership with us. And yeah, actually, I think about it. I think many more than 100 domains I have at Hover. Some I don't use, a lot I don't use, but it's fun to collect. Collect all million. Let's see. Apple Watch also updated to 8.0.1. Some bug fixes, particularly for Series 3 watches, that we're having. Software update progress may not be displayed accurately for some Apple Watch Series 3 users. Accessibility series settings also missing. Those are both fixed. So if you've got an Apple Watch 8.0.1, I don't know if this is typical. I could not get to 8 for the life of me because there was an intermediate update that just would never happen. So I just reset my watch. This is my advice to people who are getting stuck. I just reset my watch. It's very easy. When I went to iOS 15 and just had it update at that point, I jumped to 8 automatically. I don't know. I think it was something pre-8 that wasn't going through for some reason. I don't know. Does that happen to anybody? Maybe it's just me. Could just be me. More about Apple cars. Wow. This is the rumor that'll never die. This is from Mark Gurman. Apple's plan for cars. It's not their cars. It's other cars. Oh, okay. I get it. This is for CarPlay.
The other cars.
No, the other cars, not the Apple car. Of course, you use your iPhone in the Apple car. But if you have CarPlay, which I do, and I love, and I live by it, and I use Apple Maps because of it, and all of that, the company, and I don't know if Ford's going to go for this one, is working on technology that would let you access the climate control system, the speedometer, the radio, the seats. The initiative is known as Ironheart. Gurman says it's still in its early stages, and yes, would require the cooperation of
Can I add some quick color to
automakers.
that?
Yes.
Because this is why I love it. This is why I love the geeky people at Apple. So CarPlay's code name is Stark, after Tony Stark.
Oh, my God.
And Ironheart was a protege of Tony Stark. She is a young African-American armor-wearing superhero. So they are so deep in the lore right here.
There's
and
always
I'm
a
so here
Marvel
for it.
connection, isn't there? You just can't get away from it. That's hysterical. Yeah. That's it. I think CarPlay is the greatest thing. Android Auto, I know some people love it. I don't don't like it as much. I have it as well, but wireless CarPlay is fantastic. I get in the car and it's just there and it works. And,
and also all these extra hooks that they're concerning putting in. The idea of adding instrumentation to the pot that CarPlay can have access to, that CarPlay apps can have access to, that adds a lot of interesting color. There's a lot you can do with instrumentation to train people to be better drivers, for instance, to observe if the data is kept securely, to observe your driving habits and sort of coach you into I can give you an extra $8 a month and $8 a week in gas if you just, like, every time I'm flashing green, you just take your foot off the gas, take your foot off the brake, do this, and there's a lot of potential there.
I guess the advantage of CarPlay from the automaker's point of view is they have such long cycles to design this,
right?
And it's rare that that these telematics units in cars are up to date. The voice recognition, the speech, all of this is usually years behind. But if you are tied to the phone, it's always updated when the phone gets updated or the software gets updated. And by the way, you have a display for CarPlay. Why have separate buttons on the display or separate areas on the display when it could all be controlled by CarPlay? And I think another reason this would be valuable, and car makers probably should consider it, is it would know it's me getting in the car. So it could adjust my seats, my temperature, my sound, everything.
Especially for rentals.
Yeah, customized as soon as I get in the car. That's a nice thing.
Yeah,
it'll help. It'll help. Car, you could tell.
Yeah, when Lisa drives, it's adjusted for her. When I drive, it's adjusted for me. Ford kind of tries to do this with their app. It's imperfect. It would be, I think, let Apple write the software.
Yeah. Absolutely. In both cases, whether it's Android Auto or CarPlay, it's hard. You're trying to sell people a car when it comes down to business, and the automakers realize that we are no how going to be able to sell them the software the entertainment software that we build for them as a selling point. They're going to ask what happens when I get into the car with my iPhone. They say, no, it'll be full support for your phone. You can get all of your playlists, Apple Music, Spotify, everything that you're using, and you don't have to worry about having to take it back into the dealership or get an over-the-air update to our console in order to just deal with something 2 or 3 years from now. I
should point out, though, that Apple has done other similar things with kind of a little bit of rejection from car makers. Car Car Key? Is only some BMW models still to this day support that. I didn't know this, but Apple had put in features in 2015 that could access the car radio, GPS, and climate controls. In 2019, it started supporting CarPlay on secondary car screens like digital clusters. It added the ability to do routing for EVs, for the iPhone to sense when it's connected to an EV and provide charger information. To this day, no automaker does it. I would love that. It's interesting because Ford has its own. It has Waze. It has some apps. They're bulky. They're slow because they didn't put much processor in the thing. And this is a very brand new electric vehicle from Ford, the Mach-E. CarPlay is so much farther ahead, even on this. The brand new.
And the thing is even an old vehicle. I mean, we have a Honda Pilot, I think, and it just works. Like the whole thing. Like I would never use the interface. The Honda interface.
Oh no,
is absurd. And you just plug in, because for a while I was just using it with the last Honda we had. I used the screen was great because the suction cup would stick to it really well. And then you put the iPad up there and replace it.
I like a big screen. It's good for suction cups. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this one actually it works pretty well. I think that the one thing I have is this weird thing where it switches when you're in maps and someone calls and suddenly your map goes away and you're like, that's not what I wanted because I'm now lost. And so that's the only thing. But other than that, I think it works really well.
Well, the reason I use Apple Maps instead of Google Maps or Waze, both of which I could use on CarPlay, is because my watch. So I don't like it that I'm listening to a book or listening to music and the voice comes on and says turn left in 100 feet. So I turn off the voice and I just let the watch make haptic sounds.
Vibrate. Yeah,
it's great. And then I just love that feature. So Apple, you won me over. And Apple Maps is fine, right? Apple Maps is caught up.
It's fine.
Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't have. I wish it did have EV charging stuff built in. I had no idea Apple offered that. So I will say, I've learned Ford for not supporting it.
it's more optimistic than Google. Like Apple will always tell you you're going to get there faster than Google does. Like it's like, you're like, I don't know, because I think Google might be right.
I don't drive very far very often, but Apple's been super accurate for me. Like I'll text. I go down to San Rafael to see my daughter every Thursday, and I could text her. The computer says I'll be there at 12:08. Yeah. And it's always right. It knows about traffic and everything, but you find it not quite so accurate.
Sometimes I find it to be a little overestimated.
I like optimism.
What it's going to take. So,
I like a happy.
You like the optimism.
Happy
yeah,
Siri.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think we can do it.
Happy Siri.
If we put our minds to it, we can make it work.
But Apple Maps is with routing and directions. It's good enough now that I think that a lot of people can and will make the choice based on the fact that but it looks the map looks so much more cartoony and readable and pretty. I think that Google is going to have to they're going to have to like hire the FarmVille people, hire the Fortnite people to learn how to figure out how to make this look like more of a cartoon. Well, and I'm actually serious. It's like there's such a skill that's been handed down from map makers for centuries on how do you present the correct amount of information in the clearest way with the greatest economy of ink on the screen, and it's not a trivial thing. We can make jokes about how cartoony a lot of the landmarks in Apple Maps are, but the thing is, if there is a Boston landmark that you're going to be walking past or driving past, there is no question whatsoever that you are passing by the Boston Public Library or Faneuil Hall Marketplace, or if you're San Francisco, right? It's like you don't have to think about, here is a pixel accurate, lighting accurate rendering of something that kind of blends. It wants to communicate. There's
your screen anyway. That's problematic.
Well, no, exactly. Right? But I mean, if you're trying to get your bearings, and you see that it's chosen to show you that, by the way, there should be a park to your right now. That's Boston Common. But if you're not seeing a park to your right now, that's where you're screwing up, or that's where you're trying to head to.
Waze is very funny. Because it really is ugly. The maps, they don't have anything near Apple Maps or Google Maps looking drawings, but they do have little side things, like you have different voices. And they just did a tie-in with Microsoft's Halo game. So my car is now a warthog as I drive down, and I think Cortana is the voice. So you can there's things you can do to make Waze a little bit funnier, but I don't think Waze. I think you use Waze because you like its information and the crowdsourced stuff. But I believe Google and Apple really started to catch up even with that. How would you like Siri?
Breaking news, Leo.
Yes.
So this is from a fairly well-known, fairly accurate, 75% accurate Twitter Apple leaker who says the MacBook Pro 14 and 16, mini LED displays, smaller bezels, no bottom logo, 1080p webcam, which I would love, even if it takes a camera bump, I don't care. Base models will be 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. The M1X will be the same base configuration for both models. Pricing will be similar between the models, and there will be a new charging brick.
Wow. Lots of information. 75% accurate. So a quarter of what you just heard is probably wrong. But which quarter? That's the question.
But this is always the fun time for rumors, because at some point, this is the point which they have to let in the losers, the Fredos of the family, where it's like, okay, we're holding this off because you are actually going to be responsible for unpacking these and putting them on display. Now we have to show you what this looks like. This is where, if you hear a rumor that breaks out like under a week, more credibility than, say, 6 months before.
Also, 120 hertz, which is, I guess, not a surprise, right?
If it is, I can't believe it.
You're suspicious. Why would
I want it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would
it's nice for gaming, but I'm not.
Well, it's great for me because, like, right now you can manually toggle the MacBook Pro 16-inch between 48 hertz and 60 hertz, depending on whether you want to edit for TV or edit for film.
That's cool.
And it's great because it lets you do that. But if it just did it, like if I didn't have to even think about it, and I also want to be able to watch movies and TV shows at the proper frame rates, so it's just like a nicer experience.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm that person. I'm sorry, Andy.
Yeah, one of the things is that at 120 frames per second, 24, 30, 60 all fit evenly.
Yes, it's
so multiple. It's just you get 1-to-1 across all of those rather than some halfway between them. Also, there's a lot of phones that are shooting 120 frames a second.
Yeah.
So the and it is a different experience. I just, when you're watching 120, not played back in slow motion, but played back at, and the thing is that when you watch a lot of 120 playing back at 120, it gets hard to watch other stuff. And this keeps on getting where Apple's pushing this experience down the path that is like when you watch it, it starts to feel different, and you start to experience it. So you start mixing HDR and high frame rate and all those things, and it subtly feels different. Also, your mouse works a lot better. It really does. Like when you're at a high frame rate, it feels different. When you go back to like a lower frame rate, you're like, what happened to my mouse? So
it's shortened out of the new Surface.
Yeah, and we have to remember that a lot of things that people don't get, and I think Apple gets it better than most, is there's a lot of things that you don't notice, but you feel. And when you feel them, it's even more impactful sometimes because you're not conscious to it. You're just conscious to this feels a lot better, this feels more solid, this feels more real, and you don't notice it. It's just that when you go to something else, it feels chintzy. It's the little things like I've talked about in the past with Keynote. Keynote's better at anti-aliasing and better at kerning than the other presentation apps. And as a result, I can not always, but very often tell who's using PowerPoint and who's using Keynote just because of the way it looks. And PowerPoint has a cheaper look to it oftentimes. And Google's gotten better with slides, but it's super subtle, and it affects how people feel when they look at it.
What is our?
There's also
Go ahead.
The Surface, they made the Surface 120 hertz, but based on the reviews, they didn't change the polling rate of the mouse, so it doesn't pull fast enough to take advantage of the 120 hertz. So it has the wrong, it's skipping frames.
That's
basically.
fixable.
And that's the kind of thing I just want. Yeah.
That's
I just want them to
attention to detail.
Yes.
Apple doesn't have a problem with that in most cases. What is our advice as we get ready for Monday and I start to put money into my piggy bank on RAM? It's been observed that you don't, because of unified RAM and various other things, it doesn't seem to be you need as much RAM on a Apple Silicon Mac as you might have previously.
Yeah, I push back on that.
You think you need it? 16 gigs
a lot of people
16 gigs is a nice starting point. That's probably adequate for most people.
Yes.
But should we buy more?
A lot of people bought the Mac at 8 gigs because a lot of people said, oh, unified memory, 8 is the new 16. And it's not, because it works great, but memory pressure is still memory pressure. And if you need a lot of things live at the same time, or you're doing something like a lot of layers, or like anything that requires simultaneous, you still need the actual physical memory. Yeah. So never skimp on memory. The best way I can recommend is unified memory makes that memory the best thing that it can be. But the GPU, the NPU, all of that is sharing that memory now still as well. So get the memory you need, or you won't have the experience that you want.
Who needs more? 32 gigs for video editors and Photoshop users and photographers?
Developers using many simultaneous simulators, those sort of.
How about you, Alex? What is your minimum?
I have a lot of 8. I have mostly 8s actually, because I know what I'm using it for. So I'm using them for remote kits, and I'm using them to run things. And we tested them, and they're going to spend their whole life doing probably the same thing. And so I don't have, as a general purpose performance machine, I have a 16 gig that I use for that. And so but as a general I've been able to work in 8K video on an 8 gig. It just depends on what you're doing. 3D, photogrammetry, and things like motion in using I've been doing a lot of USDZ in Motion, Apple's Motion. Mm-hmm. It really likes more RAM.
How much? 32, 64?
Well, I'm working in 8K. So in 8K 3D in Motion, 16 is a better choice.
Even 16 is enough. So I figure if they're starting at 16, they'll offer at least 32 as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Get 32, right?
I wouldn't be surprised if there was 64. I wouldn't be surprised if there was 64 megs.
Really?
Yeah, or gigs. I think that it really turns. I will say 64 gigs in a mini with an M1X would be a monster of a machine, just a beast.
A Mac Pro, a little mini Mac Pro.
It really would. It would be absolutely.
If they want to really announce their presence with authority, that's what they'll do. Okay, at least with the Mac Mini.
Okay. Oh, this is gonna be an expensive week.
But you save so much on the iPhone and Apple Watch, Leo, that you really...
Thank God I didn't buy those. In fact, I girded my loins, so to speak, and canceled the Microsoft Duo phone. That'll save me another $1,500. I'm preparing myself because
Yes,
I know.
It's austerity. It's austerity, Leo. We're not used to this, but we're with you.
It's like, again, I'm a cheapskate, and even I'm like almost aghast at how many times have I spent like units of $1,000 on technology this year, and am I really prepared to do that again next week? Maybe twice. I'm like, I guess that old mattress can last another like 6 months.
Well, at least I've already found a taker for my MacBook Pro 13-inch, the M1 13-inch. Lisa says she'll take that, hand off. I gave her my MacBook Air when I got that. She's going to hand that off. We got a new employee coming in. We're going to slowly, it all passes down the line. There's always somebody who needs a little bit faster Mac. She's actually looking forward to having the M1. And I think the battery life alone will make her very, very happy.
Oh, yeah.
Very happy. She wants a travel Mac. So.
And these will be performance Macs, not efficiency Macs. So the battery life we'll have to wait and see.
Because she's really big. She always says, I have to have the fastest Mac made.
Yeah. Not a Mac Pro, though. She's got to move around.
It's not my money. I'm not, just, Ecobee has rolled out I don't know if I want a thermostat I can say, hey, Siri to. It also, and this I don't understand, it has AirPlay integration. What is that? I can play a movie on my thermostat? I don't understand.
Or at least the audio, maybe?
That's
it's
just
wall speaker?
Weird. Oh, is it a little wall speaker maybe?
Maybe.
Okay. It's the smart thermostat with voice control, $250. You can buy it on ecobee.com. I guess it's just like your next HomePod. It's like a HomePod Mini.
Well, that's the other rumor that we haven't heard of in a while, that Mark Gurman said that they were working on a HomePod theater sort of a thing, like a hybrid Apple TV HomePod, and also a HomePod iPad sort of hybrid, like a HomePod with a screen for kitchens and rooms and things like that. I don't think they'll be ready now, but there's always possibilities.
I'm just looking through all of these little crumbs. Anything that we haven't covered that you think we should mention? I mentioned FarmVille. I mean, that's a big story. I think we're good. I tell you what, unless you guys think I missed something, let's take a break and do our picks of the week. Coming up next.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Ready.
I am really happy. This is a new sponsor to our network, and I'm thrilled to have them. Userway.org. In fact, I just got a text from somebody who said, I'm really happy you've got these guys as a sponsor. They have a widget, a little tester on their website. You can see how accessible your site is. He said, I just paid a lot of money to make my site accessible, and we thought we were 100% WCAG compliant, and they found 2 more things. Thank you, Userway. Userway will make your site 100% accessible. It's not just the right thing to do. It's good for business. It opens up your website to around 60 million disabled users. It also is the right thing to do from the law. It's the federal ADA, Americans for Disability Act, requires equal access to services for all Americans. And your website is a public entity. The Supreme Court ruled it so. Pizza company said, oh, Judge, Your Honor, we don't have to make our website accessible. We've got a phone number. And the judge said, no, that's called separate but equal. You're a public entity. Your site has to be accessible. Userway is kind of cool. It makes it really easy. Every website has to be accessible, but how do you make yours accessible? Userway has an incredible AI-powered solution, tirelessly enforces the hundreds of WCAG accessibility guidelines with one line of JavaScript. In fact, with that single line, Userway can achieve more than an entire team of developers. The machine learning is great because there's things like alt tags where you have images on your site and you were supposed to put a text description of every image so that people who are using screen readers can know what that big blob on the page is. You remember to do that, right? Well, Userway's AI sees that image, says that's the Golden Gate Bridge, and adds that tag. If you want to add the Golden Gate Bridge at sunset, you can do that, but you get the basic in there just from the AI. And let me tell you, this is a popular solution. Over 1 million websites use Userway. Coca-Cola, Disney, eBay, FedEx. Userway's best-in-class enterprise-level accessibility tools are widely used by the biggest leading brands in the world, and now you can use them too, small to medium businesses. And it is very affordable. When they told me the price, I said, oh, I can do that. I was so afraid. It's so hard. You know, I put myself in your shoes. I understand. You've got a website. This is a whole additional thing to create an accessibility layer for your website. And it seems like a lot of work and a lot of expense. No. And by the way, even if you're a small business, as you scale and get bigger and bigger, UserWay's there for you. When you scale, you need UserWay. They can do Coca-Cola and Disney. They can handle your site. An accessible, compliant website is not just the right thing to do. It makes business sense. The registration forms, are they accessible? The nav menus, the shopping carts. You're turning people away because your shopping cart can't be read by screen readers. Millions of people need UserWay to make your site accessible so they can purchase your products. You want this thing. I love UserWay. For years, UserWay has been on the cutting edge, creating innovative accessibility technologies that push the envelope of what's possible with AI, machine learning, and computer vision. UserWay's AI automatically fixes violations at the code level, auto-generates image alts, remediates complex nav menus, ensures pop-ups are accessible, fix vague links violations, fix broken links. Make sure, this is a great one. You've got your Pantone palette for your company logo and all that. UserWay makes sure that your color is accessible, but without changing the color. It just adjusts the hue and luminance. So you're true to your brand, but on that accessibility layer, they can see your logo. And you'll get a detailed report of all the violations fixed in your website, so you'll know it's working. Works so easily with WordPress, Wix, Shopify. It's cost-effective. It's easy to add. Same goes for AEM and Sitecore and SharePoint. It integrates seamlessly with everything people are using to build websites, including hand-coded sites. It's a line of JavaScript. Let UserWay help your business meet its compliance goals, improve the experience for your users, and use that scanning tool I mentioned. Check out the free scanning tool. You'll see if your website's ADA compliant. We have a word from the voice of Siri, the world's most popular voice assistant, about UserWay. Hit it, Siri.
UserWay is trusted by more than 1 million websites and 60 million users with disabilities. Visit userway.org to learn how one line of code can make your website accessible.
That's a great Susan Bennett, of course, the original voice of Siri, who loves UserWay. UserWay can make any website fully accessible and ADA compliant. With UserWay, everyone who visits your site can browse seamlessly and customize it to fit their needs. It's also a perfect way to showcase your brand's commitment to millions of people with disabilities. Go to UserWay, userway.org/twit. Get 30% off UserWay's AI-powered accessibility solution. UserWay, making the internet accessible for everyone. I love this sponsor because it's the right thing to do. userway.org/twit. Get 30% off their already very affordable solution. userway.org/twit. It's the right thing to do. It's also the law. UserWay. Thank you, UserWay, for supporting the show. Times for our picks of the week. Rene Ritchie, kick us off.
So with everything coming out now, we have like the new iPhones, we have the new Apple Watches, the new iPads, the new Macs coming out. I wanted to upgrade my charging. And so this was recommended to me. It's a GAN charger from Hyper that lets you plug in two 100-watt USB-Cs and two 18-watt USB-As. And the nice thing about this is it's GAN, which is gallium nitride.
Gallium nitride, yes, yeah.
Yeah, which is just a much more efficient material. It's hard to manufacture it at a vendor scale. That's why you don't see a lot of the bigger vendors using it yet. But for a lot of third parties, there are a bunch of different concerns about the environment, all these things. Absolutely, but this is a very good, very efficient way to do fast charging if your device supports it. I don't think there's any chance that the M1X Max will have the same power draw that the Intel Max did. Like the 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro is 99 watts. I mean, it is like
that's the U.S. airline limit. So that's why you're never going to have to worry. If you have a 100-watt charger, you're good.
Yes.
Because that's the limit.
And this will give you power for that. It'll give you power for your iPad. Anything that has power delivery, PD, USB-C, PD, because these things are so simple. This will suit you, and you can plug in 4 things at a time, including like your lower power things like your watch and an old USB. The watch can do USB-C fast charging now, but you can plug it into USB-A older devices. It's just nice to have high quality, high speed, 4 ports, 2 USB-C, 2 USB-A on one easy, efficient, economical device. And they're not expensive either.
Yeah, they're also sold out. But other than that...
Well, you could. This is from the deal. You can get them, like I got mine off Amazon. They're in stock in other places.
Good to know. Good tip. Yeah, I love these. I have a lot of GAN chargers now. That's all I use because they're smaller and they don't get as hot, which is great.
Yes.
And you can get a lot of wattage in a tiny package. So that's great. Hyperjuice. And I buy a lot of their stuff, so I think Hyperjuice is safe.
Yeah,
safe.
They've been around a long time, too.
Yeah. Wow. Very nice. Andy Ihnatko, pick of the week.
My pick of the week is a book. You can have it as an audio book, as a digital book, or as Dead Tree, where Dave Grohl, the founder of Foo Fighters, as well as a foundational member of Nirvana, has written a memoir called The Storyteller: Tales of Life and Music. I'm going to recommend the audiobook because he reads it himself, and it was a really good practical choice for me. I had to do a whole bunch of work, the sort of tedious work that takes like all afternoon, but doesn't require more than 8% of your brain power, but you have to sit there at the desk and just do it, grind. And so I just listened to this, all but like the last 45 minutes of this in one shot. It's a really, really great music memoir because he has never, or at least never, he's never had like a drug problem. He's never had to go to rehab. He has never like caused a band to implode. And also so this is not a book about, and then there's a time where I got strung out, and then I woke up and I was like floating the top of an aquarium in Boston. And it's a lot of it is very, very thoughtful. It's about the progress of someone who has a very artistic and creative personality, growing up in an environment where where he had immense support from his mother, not quite so much support from his father, who was a Republican lawyer who worked in D.C., and the very, very interesting path he took towards finding his first love of music and letting that guide him through his first band, through Nirvana, through the creation of Foo Fighters, through adulthood, through parenthood. A lot of his best stories are really just about parenthood, about how, when his daughter like wants to learn how to play drums, and he has to think about like when he took his one and only drum lesson and how that failed him, like what's the best way to deal with this, on and on and on. Just it's telling a cohesive story from beginning to end, and it was a real delight to listen to for 8 hours while I was doing this horrible like pushing this huge rock up a hill all afternoon one day.
What are you working in the backyard?
No,
he's
it was
pushing a rock up the hill.
No, it was related to the thing that I was talking about earlier.
Keep rolling back down, rolling backwards, and you had to do it again and again, day after day.
And also, it felt like the rock was made out of Lego. Like every time you slip, like it breaks apart. You have to rebuild the rock. You have to push uphill again. Basically, this is every time I try to do like construction or maintenance on a website, it's like, oh my effing God, I hate this. I would much rather. I live like adjoining to a lot of farms, and I'm thinking that, wow, how much more pleasant would it be to be harvesting pumpkins all day today? Wouldn't that be wonderful? I wouldn't have to deal with CSS. Wouldn't have to deal with, oh, you forgot to set the permissions correctly on this file, and that's why you have no fonts. Like, okay.
It's probably too late to tell you about my preferred website generator, which is called Hugo, which is a static site builder. It's very, very fast and very easy to use. But I won't mention that because you've obviously... I run my own server just across the room here, running Hugo, and when I do an update, literally 4 milliseconds. I mean, it's that fast to do the update, and rebuilds the whole site each time. So it's static, which is great.
I have an ego. However, my ego is not so great as to allow myself to be responsible for the security of my own website.
So you're running your own server and all that?
No. I'm saying I don't want to have anything to do with it.
You don't want to have anything to do with that.
I know that if I were responsible for the security of the site, it would just be a disaster.
Oh, you just set up Debian. It's it's easy, no problem. Punch a hole in your network. You're good to go.
There you go.
Alex Lindsay, pick of the week.
So I'm recommending something that I don't own yet, but I do know people who do own it and are shooting with it. And I'm recommending it because it's really groundbreaking, and I think that people should just keep an eye on it. So
it's only 3 Alexes too. It's a great deal.
Exactly. Oh, it's so much worse than 3 Alexes. So anyway, so this is from Canon. I just want people to pay attention to it because this is going to change for a lot of us who've done VR and stereo. This is what we were missing. Was a relatively affordable lens that we could pop onto our camera and shoot stereo. Now, this is basically what it is. It's a dual fisheye lens, and there have been cheap versions and old German versions, and people have been playing with this type of thing for a long time.
Is really intriguing. Wow.
And so what this does is this. Now this works, I believe, only on the R5.
Yeah, you'd need to have because it's Canon's VR
system. Camera.
Yeah,
you got to get the camera. But the reason they can do this is because it's such a high resolution on the one sensor. And here's the problem that we've had is a lot of us have used 2 cameras, or we use a lot of things, and keeping that all in sync and then transporting that along has been a thing, right? Because you have 2 different signals and we have to keep them gen locked and we have to keep everything working. By taking both images and putting them both onto the same sensor and basically capturing them together, it's just so much easier to work with. And so now all there is to have the tools to unwrap those, which I'm sure will come very quickly after that. And this is going to, I think, and a lot of us have found, we love 360, but a lot of us have found that the dual 180 is what a lot of people want when they come. If they're going to go to a concert, dealing with a big camera or 2 cameras and all these other things when you have to load in is not something that any of us wanted. We did it, but we didn't enjoy it. And so having something that you just pop on and hit record, and then you're able to unwrap it, and you're able to take advantage of the camera, and the camera can be used for other things. It's not like
you just swap off.
It's
a really good camera. This is
it's a really nice camera.
Great camera, yeah.
And then you're popping just this lens. This lens is one of the things that you can do with it. And I think that it's really, really fascinating. I've wanted this kind of lens for a long time, and I've had cheap ones, and I have friends that have old German ones that were built in the 50s. People have been playing. This is not a new thing. Stereo. 180 or stereo imagery. And so anyway, so I think it's exciting to see it all finally something, because you just kept on going, if someone just built a real one of these. And so I wanted to kind of let people know it's there and kind of help push it forward. A good friend of mine has one. I don't know if I can mention his name, so I'll keep him out of trouble. But he's been shooting with it.
But Mr. Lucas has been using it for a while now, has he?
It really changes. A lot of what stops us from doing VR has been the difficulty in acquisition.
And it's a camera you'd want anyway.
Yeah.
It only works with Premiere, and the software plugin is not available till early next year. So it is
it only works for Premiere now. But the chances of it not being supported by Final Cut and Motion are very low. I don't know. I don't have any inside information, but they're already going down the VR, pipeline.
Right.
I would be really surprised if within and it's still going to take time. And there are there's already I can't think of the name of it right now, but there's already other software companies that do have.
Well, this is how the Ricoh Theta works. This is how a lot of companies, the Theta has dual fisheye lenses, and it has a way
on either side.
Yeah, so they're not 180 degrees or 360, but
as someone who's owned lots and lots of Thetas, they're great. We love those.
But this is going to be high quality.
But this means that you could go shoot you could shoot a concert and put it up, or you could shoot a wedding.
People could see it on the Quest.
An event.
Yeah.
You can, and people can, and so, definitely for the Quest, it means that things like space, or I don't know what they call it now, but the thing where you can watch things together, is all that stuff is there, and this technology is going to keep on moving forward. And this is, all I want to do is, I talked to some folks, I was like, is it worth it? Like someone who's actually using it, and he was like, yeah, it's a game changer. So and he's one of the smarter people I know. I haven't been able to get. I'm just now saving up my ducats because I have to buy an R5 and I have to buy the lens.
That's the problem. The lens is only $2,000, but the R5 is probably like 4 or 5.
3,500, I think. 3,500 or 4,000 or something. It's real money. Yeah. So I have other things on my plate to buy right now so I haven't bought it yet, but I'm gonna probably rent it and shoot it sooner. I mean, this is the kind of thing you could rent, and I bet you Borrow Lenses eventually will rent this in like 3 months for, $300
Why wouldn't they?
a week or something. Yeah.
Manufacturer suggested retail on an R5 is $3,899. But they have new VR firmware, which is not quite out yet. So you probably, this is something you're going to watch for the next 6 months.
It's just something you want to keep your eye out on. And it's a space that I've spent a lot of time in for a long time, and
very interesting.
So every once in a while, it kind of felt like nothing new was happening.
Yeah, how much did you pay for the Osmo? Again, the
Osmo was really cheap. The Ozo.
I mean,
Ozo was not.
Yeah, not the Osmo. The Ozo.
The first Ozo I bought was $60,000, and the next two.
I'm not laughing.
The next two. I'm not laughing. The next two were only $35,000, and then the last three were $7,000.
Yeah,
and I paid them all off.
You pay a price to be an early adopter. You pay a price.
Yeah, but it wasn't. I made all the money back, so they paid themselves off. You got to be when you're out that far in front, and you buy when you're willing to do that, you're one of the only people out there that have them. So if someone wants that, then
I got to go dumpster diving behind your office someday. I won't. Let me be surprised. Don't tell me what's back there.
I don't think they're in the dumpster. I hate to say
everything. When my last company closed up, everything happened so quickly and chaotically that there's stuff in my garage that are just stacked in there. And it's like spelunking.
No, I got a good deal on
look what I found.
I got a really good deal on a Sony video camera for Henry, actually.
Oh, nice. What'd you get?
You got me the, I bought it from you.
Did you really? I don't remember what I sold you, but that's great. It's like, I don't remember what that was. So, yeah.
It's all right. He doesn't use it anymore because he's now using the Canon to shoot. And I would imagine, I could see Henry an R5 in his future and this lens as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very interesting. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, all three of you. Alex, what's going on in office hours?
Oh, it's just crazy. I mean, it's just every day we're just getting up and discussing a lot of the stuff. Really, it's incredible the answers just on the average day that we're kind of putting together. We're really getting much closer to what we call Office Hours 2.0, which is really going to look much more like a show like this one, but with 16 panelists.
So this is not even a year old. You started this. This is week 41. So
this is week 41 for this is week 41. For the website, I think it is.
Okay.
We started. We're at episode, I think 560 something or other.
Okay.
So because we do it every day.
Right.
So but
almost 2 years. Then.
Yeah. We'll be 2 years in March, and but now what we're doing. I mean, everything's kind of branched out. There's a lot of shows. So like, there's a thing called Conversations with Tony Mobley. I think he's on there right now on the website there that you were showing. And Tony is he's in. So Tony has been has just really come up through the from starting with just trying to figure out how to get his laptop. Now he has his own show, and we literally produce his show in AWS. So everyone connects via Zoom. So like you're doing, like we're all connected here, except that's all happening in AWS with vMix in the cloud and Zoom and everything else, and everyone's just figured it out. This is just like something everyone's doing for fun, like to figure this out. And so Tony interviews people, and we have shows and graphics and super sources and everything else, but it's all happening in the cloud. And then on Saturday we're learning to make chai from Damayanti Garja, which I'm very excited about, like authentic chai from scratch. And so that's going to be kind of we experiment with this idea of cooking together and using cameras and stuff. And then we're going to take over a bar in Belfast. So the Accidental Theater, and they have a band that will be playing, and we're cutting cameras and doing graphics. So instead of going out to the cloud, we're coming in from all over the world and taking over all the hardware that's there. And it's just an incredible group of people that just, like, hey, let's figure this out. And then they just start figuring it out.
You ever hear from Emery on his yacht? Is he?
I haven't heard from Emery yet. Emery's surprisingly hard to reach now.
Yeah, suddenly,
so it's a lot of bad cell phone coverage.
You sell your company for billions of dollars and, just disappear.
Yeah. So, nice. So anyway, it's
officehours.global to find out more, to see the videos and join the fun live via Zoom 24/7. As Zeph6 in the chat room is saying, Alex lives in the future, and you get to join him every morning.
We all live it. It does feel like you're living in the future.
Yeah, very much.
I spent more time with the people in office hours than I have with anyone else.
It's actually the nice version of the Squid Game. is what it is, if you really want to.
I don't know what the Squid Game is, so I don't know what that is.
Don't worry about it. Andy Yanako, WGBH, Boston. When?
Friday, 1 p.m. Go to WGBHnews.org to stream it live or stream it later.
Well, that was easy.
Indeed.
Okay, thank you. and Renee Ritchie, what are you working on YouTube these days, or anywhere?
I have my I have my Apple event preview up, and I just did a deep dive on the pros and cons of what we're hearing about for the new M1X MacBooks Pro. So if you're curious about whether you want,
didn't we just learn about this like this morning? You work fast.
It's not my first rodeo, Leo.
You're quick. YouTube.com/Renee Ritchie. Thanks all three of you for joining us. And thanks also to the club members that make this show possible. If you're not yet a member of Club Twit, may I entreaty you, may I beg you, may I request your presence? We would love to have you. Club Twit is $7 a month. What do you get? You get ad-free versions of all of our shows. That saves you, several hours a week of listening time, depending on how many shows you listen to. You also get access to the Twit Plus feed. New on the Twit Plus feed, Steve Gibson's AMA that he did on Friday. That is really worth listening to. You could have joined that live or listened after the fact on the Twit Plus feed. The live stuff happens in the Discord. The Discord is so much fun. Chat on steroids about not just the shows that are ongoing, but all the topics geeks love. $7 a month. For more information, twit.tv/clubtwit. It's a really nice way to support what we're doing here, and you get some pretty good benefits, I think. We do the show every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific. Next week should be very good, very interesting. 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. The live stream, which is always on, by the way, is at twit.tv/live. We're not always in production, but if we're not, you'll see reruns of shows. But when we're in production, you can watch us live. And if you're watching live, you can chat with us and the other members of the community at our chat room at irc.twit.tv or in the Discord chat room, which is, of course, also created specifically for the show each week. On-demand versions of Mac Break Weekly are available at our website, twit.tv/mbw. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to Mac Break Weekly. And, of course, if you subscribe on your favorite podcast player, you'll get it automatically. If your podcast player, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Pocket Casts or whatever, supports reviews, please do me a favor. Give us a 5-star review. That's another way you could support us. Let the world know about Mac Break Weekly. Thanks for joining us now. Time to get back to work because break time is over. See you next time.
Do you have an iPhone, an Apple Watch, an iPad, or any number of Apple devices? Well, you have got to check out iOS Today with me, Micah Sargent, and Rosemary Orchard. We cover all things iOS and help you get the most out of your devices.